Chapter 658. Regarding the past, it's meaningless for me to continue repeating it here. Everyone has their own views on right and wrong. I can't change anyone's mind by force, and I don't have that ability. Today, the leaders have invited everyone here and asked me to speak on stage. I just hope to give everyone a chance to reconsider and examine themselves before things get out of hand. Chen Guang didn't expect to be able to make these people surrender in one fell swoop. He didn't have that ability, and neither did the old masters. He believed that they didn't have such extravagant hopes either. Don't be fooled by the lively appearance now. The old masters' long march of 10,000 miles might just be the first step. This step was a short distance, but it was a qualitative change. They didn't dare to face each other, but they were now on equal footing. They could finally face each other and talk about equality, peace, and coexistence with them. My Guangding General Headquarters is actually not that great of a department. It's just a channel for everyone to communicate. After today, if there's anything on your mind, anything you can't figure out, or any laws and regulations that you don't understand, you can come to my Guangding General Headquarters to communicate. If you don't communicate, you won't understand. If you don't understand each other, there will be misunderstandings. Only by making things clear can misunderstandings be eliminated. Alright, I'm done. Chen Guang was almost done, so he turned around and ran. He finally understood that the functions of this lousy general headquarters were not fixed at all. He had to adapt to the situation. It was impossible for him to thoroughly explain such a high-level new department with just a few words here and there. The situation was not clear yet. If he were to make a firm decision so early, he would make more mistakes. It was better to leave some leeway and slowly chew on it later. For example, if he raised the requirements too high now, when the martial artists found out that individual weapons weren't that scary, wouldn't he be courting death by showing off later? Otherwise, if he lowered the requirements now, when he clearly had the upper hand, it would be inconvenient for him to raise the price because of the previous promise. Wouldn't he be at a disadvantage again? So why would I talk about functions now? To put it bluntly, I'm just an intermediary company. Those who want to rely on the old masters can come to me, and I'll be the middleman. As for how to cooperate, how to work together, what privileges you can maintain, what support you can enjoy, and what benefits you have to hand over, these are all matters to be discussed later. It seemed like he had said a lot, but in fact he hadn't made any decisions. But to say that he hadn't said anything at all, that wasn't right either. He had more or less expressed his basic intentions and attitude. Firstly, the Directorate of Light would replace the Special Affairs Bureau. Secondly, the style of the Directorate of Light was definitely different from that of the Special Affairs Bureau. Thirdly, what you've seen and heard today will definitely be an eye-opener for you. In the past, you didn't learn the law, didn't talk about the law, and didn't care about the laws of ordinary people. But in the future, you'll have to think about it more. Sai, why didn't this guy make it clear before going down? Jiang Yage's grandfather seemed to want to stop him. Old Master Jin shook his head. That's enough. This kid has done well. The old man in the middle nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. You're neither servile nor overbearing, but you're not overly overbearing. You've really grasped it just right. Times have changed. The younger generation now is really amazing. If it was in our era, people like little Chen would be born with knowledge. Think about how difficult it was for us to read a book back then. Can you compare? Now, they're walking around the world with a computer. Their horizons are different, and people with a flexible mind can naturally learn faster and understand things more thoroughly. The old man in the middle said, I thought he would say something harsh, and then I would step in to smooth things over. Now that he's taken this step, I don't even know what to say anymore. The old men did not expect Chen Guang to be so slippery. They thought that with his personality, when he was suddenly pushed onto the stage, he would at least say a few harsh words. In the end, they were caught off guard by Chen Guang's juvenile Tai Chi. Chen Guang returned to the stage and sat next to Jiang Yuanchao. His heart was also thumping wildly. Old Master Tan sat beside him. Little Chen, you did well. Your improvisation really didn't disappoint us. Chen Guang asked blankly, Old Master Tan, what did I say just now? Why don't I have any recollection of it? I was so nervous that my mind went blank the whole time. You guys are too forceful. Can't you let me know earlier next time? Can't you prepare a script for me in advance? I feel like I almost mispronounced my own name when he suddenly asked me to charge forward. Tan Zhao Hua. Jiang Yuan Chao. So you're just spouting nonsense because you fainted from shock. How many virtues did you accumulate in your past life for you to be able to bluff your way through like a blind cat hitting a dead mouse? Sima Bei's face was gloomy. Usually, he was the representative of the Special Affairs Bureau to speak on stage, but it seemed like the entire Special Affairs Bureau was excluded today. Chen Guang and his General Directorate of Guangding had officially surfaced, which meant that the old men were going to attack the Special Affairs Bureau. They were going to take off their last layer of disguise, and it was time to shed all pretense of cordiality. It was already close to noon, and the mobilization meeting before the military exercise had temporarily come to an end. They would first have lunch at the base, and in the afternoon would be the official military exercise. At this time, from the gate of the base, one after another, fully sealed green trucks entered in a line. Exactly 20 green-armed 125 vehicles were neatly arranged in a corner of the field. The people from the military and the military walked to one side each. Everyone was still wary of each other, afraid that they would make a fuss over the food. Old Chief, I don't think Qin Guang is suitable for this heavy responsibility. Halfway through the meal, Chao Shiming finally could not sit still anymore. He mustered up the courage to approach the old men's table and said so. But, little Chao, tell me your reason. The old man in the middle put down his chopsticks and turned around to ask with a faint smile. Shiming, what nonsense are you talking about? Get lost. Chao Shiming's father was also at the table, and he started reprimanding with a stern face. Chao Shiming and his father looked at each other, feeling a little wronged, but he argued. Chen Guang is not even 21 years old yet. How can such an important position be given to a kid who is still wet behind the ears? Even if he has some connections in the martial world, we can just give him an idle position. If we let him take real power, it will only be a matter of time before he misses the big picture. That's a good reason. What else? Don't get agitated, old Chao. Let little Chao finish. Chao Shiming swallowed his saliva and continued, Did you see what he said when he went on stage just now? It was all nonsense. There was no dignity of an official at all. It was purely discrediting us. Letting such a young man take a high position is not enough to convince the public. His connections in the martial world and what he did in Shund are not enough to support his current position. It's the same even if he's Uncle Jin's grandson-in-law. Chao Shiming turned his attention to old Master Jin. Things were getting clearer. Chao Shiming hadn't planned on showing his cards so quickly, but he couldn't sit still anymore. If he delayed any longer, things would become irreversible after today. The elders should also understand that although Chao Shiming was the only one standing here, he was definitely not alone. He represented the attitude of many people in the military, and it was impossible for him to be swatted to death with just one blow of a stick. The old man in the middle still smiled faintly. Little Chao, you can leave. We heard what you said. That's it? Yesterday in the courtyard, I and Director Ding of the Ministry of Finance had only spoken a few words to him as an elder. In the end, he had turned hostile on the spot and put us in a difficult position. He has no subtlety and no sense of responsibility. In the future, how will our various departments cooperate with him? Isn't this a waste of time? Chao Shiming was at a loss. I've already said so much. Old master, you should say something. At another table, Jiang Yuanchao poked Qin Guang's shoulder. Little Qin, that guy is probably bad-mouthing you. Aren't you going to defend him? Chen Guang turned his head to look and saw Chao Shiming's angry and anxious look. He shrugged nonchalantly. Uncle Jiang, eat up. I'll get you a big drumstick on behalf of Solomon. Yo, not bad, young man. You know I like meat. Speaking of which, why are you representing Solomon? Jiang Yuanchao's words were immediately diverted by Qin Guang. He wasn't going to defend himself. Leave it if you want. Do you really think I can't wait to be a hot potato under my butt? When I was forced to do something, I already wanted to quit, okay? I just want to hide in a corner and live my own life, okay? Whoever wants to do this can go. I'll happily earn my own money, earn some faith points, and do some shameful things with Lioli in the cup. Sooner or later, I'll become the master of the trichiliocosm, okay? Do I have nothing better to do than to run into your troublesome business? If it weren't for the fact that I haven't avenged myself in the matter with Wenwen, I would have quit a long time ago, okay? Who would have thought that every time I mess around, it just so happens to be what you want? You guys are poisonous. How can you get me right by a fluke? I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I'm breaking down. Of course, he knew he was just thinking about it. No matter what Chao Shiming said, it was useless. The expression of the old man in the middle gradually turned cold. Little Chao, it's good that you have this intention, but you still have to learn to see the essence of many things through the surface. Don't be blinded by simple appearances. Old Chao, go back and talk to little Chao about what happened today. Tell him why we have to be Qinguang. Old Chao nodded hurriedly and glared at Chao Shiming. Did you hear that? I told you to leave. See, it's useless. Chen Guang watched as Chao Shiming left dejectedly. Jiang Yuanchao gave him a thumbs up. You're so observant at such a young age. Chen Guang sighed. I didn't want to do this, Uncle Jiang. After lunch, it was time for the official military drill. In the middle of the field, there were already more than 1,000 soldiers. Chen Guang had some impression of most of them. If he remembered correctly, most of these people were his special trainees in Shund. Although they didn't really learn anything, they were selected from all over the country. Needless to say, they were the elites of the elites. This also reflected the importance of Chen Guang. Although he didn't realize it himself, he was indeed the chief instructor of almost all the top soldiers in the country. Perhaps this was also one of the reasons why the old men made him the director of the general administration of Guangding. He thought he didn't do anything, but in fact he had done a lot. As the commander, Old Man Tan walked down to the field and stood on the flag stand in the middle of the square. He first turned his head and gave a simple nod to the hundreds of people in the stands, then turned to the microphone and took a deep breath, ready to officially announce the start of the individual military exercise. Hundreds of representatives from all over the country held their breath. This sudden military drill would change the situation of the whole country in the dark. At this moment, a loud noise came from the corner of the wall of the base. What was going on? This time, even the old men were at a loss. The guard battalion in charge of security was mobilized in an instant. It was obvious that this was an accident. The martial artists were not much better. They had already suffered a lot of fright today. They were even aware that there were 2 powerful missiles under the building not far behind them. Another loud sound rang out, and the cracks on the wall spread out like a spider web. In an instant, they had spread to more than 100 feet long. Before anyone could figure out what had happened outside the wall, the cracked wall collapsed with a loud bang. Smoke and dust rose everywhere, and sand soared into the sky. Alert! The guard battalion commander shouted. Hundreds of soldiers with live ammunition rushed to the crack on the wall. Even the armed 125 was activated, turning its turret to aim in that direction. Beside Qin Guang, Jiang Yuanchao let out a low roar. He stood up abruptly and pulled out his pistol, ready to jump down from the stand. Chen Guang looked at the dust from afar. For some reason, even though he was a few hundred meters away, he felt a familiar aura behind the dust. It was inexplicable, as if it came from the bottom of his heart. Could it be that Wenwen is here? Do you have to be so domineering with your entrance? Isn't there a gate there? Can't you just enter from the gate? Do you think you're in a manga? Can't you just enter properly? Gradually, the dust settled, and a slender black figure slowly walked out. Damn, it's really Wenwen. Qin Guang's eyes widened. For some reason, as her best friend, he felt a little ashamed and embarrassed. Oh no, she's been infected by my Chunibyu. Is the virus in the old man so strong? Go through the gate. Wenwen, who gradually walked out, was dressed in a black warrior outfit. The black saber that was as long as a person hung on her back. However, it didn't seem to be sheathed. Instead, it was tied to the scabbard. Drops of blood dripped from the edge of the black saber. She walked for more than 10 meters, but the blood trail on her back was already more than 10 meters long. She seemed to be covered in dust. After all, no matter how high her martial arts were, she couldn't protect herself from dust. But she shouted in a low voice, and a powerful energy burst out from all the pores on her body. Smoke and dust spread out from her body, resembling the halo drawn by Akira Toriyama when Goku transformed into a Saiyan in Dragon Ball. Chen Guang silently gave her a thumbs up. Identification complete. Severe Chunibyu. First, she looked at the many guards in full uniform, and the muzzle pointed at her not far away. Wenwen stretched her neck and looked at the stands. Soon she saw Chen Guang. She grinned, and the cold and murderous aura instantly melted. Even the blood dripping from her long saber stopped. She waved at Chen Guang and smiled brightly. Then she cupped her hands at the crowd. Everyone, I'm sorry. I'm Wenwen from the Wen family. I'm late. As soon as she finished speaking, the smoke and dust finally stopped. Only then did the crowd realize that at the periphery of the collapsed wall, there were at least dozens of martial artists in different uniforms lying in a twisted manner. Broken limbs were scattered all over the ground, and not a single corpse was left intact. Those with eyes could tell that something was wrong. These people are wearing the uniforms of the Poison Sect and Dark Sect. They're from the two major sects. Chapter 659. It was no wonder that the youngest Wenzong in history had yet to arrive. Even if there was a traffic jam, she should have arrived by now. It turned out that she had been waiting outside for the Poison Clan and Dark Clan to arrive. Had the relationship between the two forces deteriorated to such a state? It seemed that they would not rest until one of them was dead. If he was not wrong, among the dozens of Poison Clan and Dark Clan martial artists lying on the ground, the two who were dressed in luxurious clothes should be the important figures of the two sections. But they were all dead, not a single one was spared. They had been hiding until now. Perhaps they had guessed that Wenwen was waiting for them and wanted to sneak in. As long as they were inside, even if they had conflicts with each other in public, they could still reluctantly sit down and talk. In the end, they had miscalculated. They had been watching until now, but Wenwen had not appeared. Hence, they came out from their hiding spots and gathered together to enter the base. How could they have imagined that a Grandmaster would ambush them in such a sinister manner? Wenwen, you will die a horrible death. Suddenly, a person came out from the corpses on the ground. However, he only had half a body left. It seemed like he was still hanging on to his last breath. It was one of the martial artists in luxurious clothes. This is Jiu He. I didn't expect them to send their vice sect leader. This is too tragic. This is too tragic. From what I know, Jiu He has almost reached the pinnacle of skin force. His poison skill is unfathomable. He even brought so many people with him while the Wen family only has one sect leader. Oh my god. The one beside him should be the vice sect leader of the Dark Clan, Ghost Shadow. He and Jiu He have always been good friends. Although they are not from the same sect, they often travel together. Now they have died together. Two masters at the pinnacle of Pi strength and so many subordinates, but we barely heard the sound of killing, and they all died without a complete corpse. How did this demoness surnamed Wen cultivate? This doesn't make sense. This is too unbelievable. That's right. Demoness. She is walking over. Look, she is still smiling. She has just killed so many people, but she is still smiling so brightly. No, she should be a demoness. Lower your voice, don't let her hear you. While walking, Wenwen didn't even turn her head. She kicked the ground with her heel and a small stone was sent flying by her heel. The stone flew towards Jiu He, who had just stood up and was cursing her. Half of the pitiful Poison Sect's vice sect master's body was sent spinning in the air. Like a piece of leather, he fell to the ground silently. Such power, such an appearance, was enough to make everyone's scalp go numb. Even the old man, who had full confidence in the military's individual weapons, was shaken. This was the first time they had seen the pinnacle of power in the world of martial artists. So, a real guru-level inner strength martial artist was this terrifying? They were well aware of the sturdiness of the base's walls. They were at least half a meter thick, yet they had been destroyed with just 2 blows. If every inner force martial artist was this strong, then what was the point of fighting? He wasn't human at all. Even the most advanced weapons might not be able to capture the enemy's figure. Once the enemy hid in the crowd of the city, who could do anything to them? Fortunately, this young lady was on their side. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The old man quietly looked at Qin Guang's bald head. The more he looked at it, the more pleasing it was to the eye. A heroine had a weakness for a handsome man. In fact, Qin Guang didn't seem particularly handsome. He didn't know what she saw in Qin Guang. Forget it, don't bother about the details. In short, we relied on the chief of the Guangdong police headquarters to seduce her and turn the pinnacle of inner force martial artists into our own. As for the younger generation in the military and political circles, they weren't any better. All of them were dumbfounded. Many of the elite soldiers in the security camp and the square who were participating in the military exercise were breathing rapidly. This big sister was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. The more one needed power, the more they would respect the strong. Wen used her absolute power to instantly gain everyone's respect. Fortunately, we have Chief Instructor Qin. In a sense, Chief Instructor Qin is the strongest man in the world. At this moment, no matter which force they were from, they were all shocked by Wen's domineering and cold appearance. It wasn't until she walked closer that the sword-wielding nun and the beautiful woman in colorful clothes, who had no ulterior motives, came to their senses first. They cupped their hands and said, "Greetings, Master Wen." The two sect leaders lowered their heads and looked at each other. They had tried to compare their own disciples with her, but now it seemed that they weren't on the same level at all. Fortunately, the two sect leaders didn't read comics. Otherwise, they would have scolded them and said that they shouldn't fight to the death if their styles were different. The others also came to a sudden realization and hurriedly followed. Master Wen's martial arts are unparalleled and she looks like a fairy. She's really a blessing for the martial arts world. Master Wen has such a cultivation at such a young age. She will definitely become the supreme master of the martial arts world in the future. Those rascals from the Poison Sect and the Dark Sect dared to secretly spy on the Wen family. They deserve to die. Qin Guang wasn't much better than these people. The last time he saw Wen, she wasn't as powerful as she was now. How long has it been? Are you on drugs or something? Your skills are rising like a rocket, right? Are you going to call me in a few days to tell me that you're going to break through the void and go to another plane? Big sister, people like you living in fantasy novels are like a cheap party with the protagonist's halo on, okay? How many snake gallbladders have you picked up recently to go with your wine? Or did you transform into Duan Yu and accidentally break the exquisite chess game somewhere and receive Su Xinghe's skills? You said you're the Condor heroes, but I've only trained to the calf meat and you've already unified the martial arts world. How can I happily act cool with you? Come to think of it, seeing those fence-sitters flattering Wen, Qin Guang felt proud. That's right, everyone, don't panic. She's a lowly woman, she won't eat you. Qin Guang didn't expect that Wen's heaven-defying cheat was not given by someone else but himself. It was currently turning into the 7 stars in her dantian and spinning. Wen smiled again. Just now, she had killed many of her opponent's capable subordinates. Now that she saw Qin Guang here, her mood was much better. She nodded to the others. "Greetings, seniors. I don't deserve it." The old men had already gone up to greet Wen passionately. This time, everyone's hearts were at ease. There wouldn't be any trouble today. Wen also gave the old men enough face. She bowed and greeted, "Greetings, seniors. This junior pays her respects." "Sai, don't stand on ceremony. We can't thank Sect Master Wen enough for your presence." The old men grinned from ear to ear. Since everyone is here, shall we continue?" One of the old men asked tentatively. Wen nodded. "Of course, continue. Please take a seat here." Secretary Chu was the smartest. He took the initiative to lead Wen in Qin Guang's direction. That's right, there was an empty chair beside Qin Guang's seat. It was reserved for Wen. Jiang Yuanchao, who was originally sitting on the other side of Qin Guang, seemed to have run away when he sensed that something was amiss. Wen smiled and greeted everyone along the way. Then, she walked toward Qin Guang's direction. Halfway there, She stopped and took the black cleaver off her back. She took a silk handkerchief from her belt and wiped it before gently sheathing the blade. When she was wiping her saber, she gripped the hilt of her saber. A cold current uncontrollably swept out from where she stood. Those without inner strength might only feel a slight chill, but the warriors sitting behind her with inner strength felt their bodies tremble at this moment, feeling a dull pain in their dantian. Just the way she held the saber was already so terrifying. It was no wonder that she was able to kill dozens of people from Poison Sect and Dark Sect in just 2 moves. Even though he did not see what happened with his own eyes, he could imagine how overwhelming the saber shadows she had produced were just by using his brain. On the other side, Tan Zhaohua wasn't in a hurry to announce the start of the military drill. The group of old men looked at the group of silent inner force martial artists happily. Their previous frustration and helplessness were swept away. Sigh, if only she had come earlier. Wenwen walked closer to Qin Guang. The black cleaver was on her back again. She was smiling casually, but everywhere she passed, everyone felt threatened. Sima Bei's face was dark. The situation had taken a turn for the worse. He clearly remembered that the Wen family's clan leader wasn't as powerful as she was now. The speed of her improvement was too terrifying. He had to report this to the director as soon as possible. Shiming, do you understand now why we must make Qin Guang the director? Previously, you thought that his relationship with the martial artists wasn't worth mentioning. Do you still think so now? Chao Shiming's father turned around and asked his useless son. Chao Shiming felt extremely embarrassed and lowered his head. Although he was extremely resentful in his heart, he felt even more despair and helplessness. Why did this brat have such good luck? How could this kind of woman fall for him? It was simply illogical. Got it, Dad. Get your comrade from the General Staff Department to prepare for a transfer to the Military Research Institute. Old Master Chao sighed again. Chao Shiming's eyes widened. He thought he had heard wrong. The comrade that the old master was talking about was one of Chao Shiming's closest friends. He was his right-hand man in his faction. Now that he was transferred to the Military Research Institute, it seemed like his rank didn't change, but it was equivalent to retirement. To him, it was like breaking his limbs. But this isn't fair. Lower your voice. What's unfair about it? Don't let your uncles laugh at you. Don't you realize that you've done something wrong? If you make a mistake, you have to pay the price. Otherwise, why don't you go to the Military Research Institute yourself? Chao Shiming finally lowered his head and stopped struggling. He was filled with indescribable regret. If only he had known earlier. Sigh, how could I have known earlier in this world? At that moment, Wenwen and Qin Guang were finally within 10 meters of each other. Qin Guang also stood up and was about to welcome her. Suddenly, Wenwen's expression changed. She raised her hand to hold on to the guardrail of the stand. Her face instantly turned red. Qin Guang stopped where he was. This scene seems familiar? What's going on? Just a second ago, Wenwen still had the demeanor of a grandmaster. Suddenly, she turned sideways and clamped her legs together. She held on to the guardrail tightly. The redness spread from the base of her neck all the way up to her ears and to her forehead. Big sister, are you sick? You're seriously sick. Hold on a little longer. I'll come over now. Let me use my ancestral secret method to examine you. There are so many people here watching. Don't do anything shameful. You're our backer. Wenwen's hands were tightly gripping the guardrail. With a little force from her fingertips, the metal guardrail immediately deflated. Perhaps it had been a long time, but she had almost forgotten what had happened last time. Now, all kinds of strange thoughts were uncontrollably bursting forth in her mind as she approached Qin Guang again. She finally recalled the fear of being dominated by this guy. If there was no one here, the situation could still be controlled. But we're in public now. Don't you dare harm me. On this side, Qin Guang took another step towards Wenwen. On the other side, Wenwen screamed, "Don't! Qin Guang, don't come over!" Qin Guang was at a loss. He spread his hands and said, But what's going on? Do you think I won't come over just because you tell me not to? I'm going to come over no matter what." He took another step forward. This time, Wenwen's lower abdomen seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. It was as if someone had ruthlessly hammered her with a hammer. There was a buzzing sound inside, just like the brass bell in the Shaolin temple. The various charming visions in Wenwen's mind became more and more violent. She could only grit her teeth and maintain her clarity. She secretly cursed in her heart. When there's no one around, I'll strangle you to death, you heartless bastard. Not good. Yuan Guan seemed to be about to fall. It's over. She wasn't wearing a skirt today but a martial arts uniform. She was a grandmaster, the most prestigious expert in the pugilistic world. If she wet her pants in public, she would probably have to kill everyone here to prevent her prestige from being tarnished. But based on her understanding of Qin Guang, if he said he would come over, he would really come over. But she couldn't run away now. Taking a deep breath, Wenwen tilted her body and faced Qin Guang. Her pink face squeezed out a shy smile for Qin Guang. Be good, listen to me. Don't come over. We'll talk later. Listen to me, eh? The many inner force martial artists who had been watching Wenwen and Qin Guang all gasped. Sect leader Wen's demeanor, tone, posture, and expression. Oh my God. The Grandmaster was acting coquettishly and showing off their affection in public. This was simply inhumane. We were wrong about you. We didn't expect you to be such a Grandmaster. These two, aren't they a little too shameless? The nun with the sword kept a straight face. She wanted to reprimand them but didn't dare to say anything. Public morals are degenerating day by day. Public morals are not what they used to be. The beautiful woman said with a smile, Actually, I'm quite envious of the young people nowadays. They are not like us in the past. We cultivated hard all day long, but we were only skin force martial artists. Small fries like us shouldn't try to guess the uniqueness of a grandmaster. The nun with the sword rolled her eyes. You're right. He is a Wenzong after all. If I'm not wrong, the current sect leader Wen is probably even more powerful than the Wenzong Zong who appeared 100 years ago. That's why he is from the famous Wen family, but the two of us can only stay in small sects like Thousand Flower Valley and Thousand Despair sect. Not only were the martial artists blinded, but the political and military bigwigs on the other side weren't any better. Jiang Yuanchao felt bad. I don't believe that these two are not in a relationship. Old Master Jin and Old Master Jiang were also embarrassed. Why does this scene look completely different from what sect leader Wen told us? Chao Shiming looked on helplessly. He really didn't want to admit that he was jealous of anyone. After all, he was already an old man. Why should he be jealous of the young people's public display of affection? But their public display of affection made his brother want to go to the Military Research Institute. Not to mention the others who were frightened, even Qin Guang was not much better. He had known Wenwen for so long, but when did she ever act coquettishly towards him? She did not even act like this on the second day after he got a room with her, okay? You think we are showing off our affection, but in fact, I have goosebumps all over my body. There must be something fishy going on. I'd better take a few steps back. Chen Guang decisively decided to retreat. All right. I won't come over. You can do whatever you want. Don't mind me. After saying that, he ran back to his seat and sat there obediently. He stared at the crowd below the stage as if he didn't care about what was going on outside. The strange movements in her body gradually stopped, and Wenwen finally let out a long sigh of relief. She rolled her eyes at him. This guy was finally behaving himself. Just the look in her eyes was enough to make the people on the spectators stand melt. Sect leader Wen, please be more reserved. Although you are now close to those in power, you also represent the people of the martial arts world. Sai, forget it. Since he is a grandmaster, he can do whatever he wants. Wenwen found a place to sit more than 20 meters away from Qin Guang. Then, she took out her phone and sent a WeChat message to Qin Guang. On the other side, Qin Guang also took out his phone, and the two of them started chatting. Both of you took out your phones just like that? Why didn't both of you hand in your phones? This doesn't make sense. Alright, Wenwen came in by breaking the wall. As for Qin Guang, no one seemed to have talked to him about the phone this morning. Forget it. Let's not care about the details. These two will definitely not take a picture and post it on the internet. Damn, Chen Guang has already started to point the camera at the field. Jiang Yuanchao rushed over. Chen Guang, what are you doing? Chen Guang looked up and grinned. I have to post on Weibo even when I'm having a feast. Shouldn't I post on my WeChat moments to celebrate such a big event? Jiang Yuanchao was speechless. Looking at his green face, Chen Guang chuckled. Uncle Jiang, don't be nervous. I'm just joking with you. Do you think I don't know these simple rules? Even if no one says it, I know. I'm taking a selfie here. Wenwen is sitting over there, so I'm taking a selfie for her to see. Look, I've already reminded Wenwen not to take any pictures or videos. As he said that, Chen Guang even showed Jiang Yuanchao his chat history with Wenwen. It was really like that. Oh, right, Uncle Jiang, since you're here, why don't we take a picture together? Chen Guang pulled Jiang Yuanchao along. No, I'm not going to do the tricks of you youngsters. Cut. Jiang Yuanchao and Chen Guang appeared in the camera together. That's right, the old man even made a V-shaped hand gesture. Uncle Jiang, what about the tricks of the youngsters? Your V-shaped hand is even more familiar than mine. I've been led into the ditch by you. Is that so? Do you want another picture? No. Gotcha. Uncle Jiang, can we not make the V-shaped hand gesture? No, it's instinctive. Seeing that Jiang Yuanchao and Chen Guang were together, the old men finally breathed a sigh of relief. At least they had settled down. They really did not know what was going on. On such a big occasion, the base was still being cleaned up, but the two of them only used 2 small expressions and a few simple words to lighten the atmosphere. A few minutes later, Old Man Tan regrouped and the military exercise officially began. Many of the weapons that Chen Guang had seen in the documents were displayed in front of the world one after another. This military exercise, which might not appear in external reports for the next 20 years, had finally begun. This was a grand gathering of modern cutting-edge technology. The most cutting-edge technological essence of the country over the past few decades was unreservedly displayed under the sun. Some of the things that the old man hinted at the mobilization meeting became reality. The martial artists' emotions gradually shifted away from Wenwen. From the initial disdain, they gradually began to feel threatened, and finally, they even felt their blood run cold. Had modern technology become so terrifying without them realizing it? Chapter 660. An ordinary person wearing this armor could actually become as light as a swallow, leaping several meters. Although there was no significant increase in strength, the explosive power displayed by raising one's hands and feet could not be underestimated. Although these soldiers were not proficient in using this new equipment, if they were given long-term training, they would be able to adapt to this equipment that could increase human strength to the extreme. Even if they were to use cold weapons, they would be able to compete with external experts. This was the power of the fully fitted armor. As for the various exquisite guns, it was even more shocking. The last laser-guided depleted uranium bullet was especially terrifying. One must know that this was a single-soldier handheld weapon, coupled with a multifunction aiming device. It could simply turn a soldier into a human cannon. It was not an exaggeration to say that among all the internal strength martial artists present, perhaps only one would be able to escape from this weapon. But different from other weapons, there were only 3 heavy rifles that could withstand depleted uranium bullets. It was not that the old men did not want to display more to scare people, but there were only 3 such guns that could be used stably. If they wanted to continue, they did not have enough materials. Before the revolutionary advancement of material technology, the alloy required to manufacture these guns could only be manufactured in a year, and the yield rate was less than 10%. As for the other mechanical armors that were similar to Gundam, they were not as scary as this gun. Bullets that could be dodged were not fatal bullets. The atmosphere of the scene became extremely tense when the armed 125, the 20 mechanical monsters, finally appeared. Although Chen Guang was not a military fanatic, he still had some understanding of the domestic Type 99 tanks. After all, he often saw them on the internet. But it was obvious that these 20 armed 125 and Type 99 tanks were of a different generation. Perhaps the next generation of infantry fighting vehicles would not even have the Type 125. It was clearly a gigantic mechanical monster that weighed dozens of tons, but its ability to turn and accelerate was so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. The most frightening part was the main and secondary cannons that were protruding from the cannon turret. The main cannons displayed several types of special pills, armor-piercing bullets, explosive bullets, incendiary bullets, and so on. Each type caused terrifying damage to the target. At the same time, it relied on the almost artificial intelligence fire control system to accurately hit the small targets that were moving at high speed. Through the unified coordination of the command center, the firepower of the 2125mm armored vehicle's main cannons interweaved into a seamless net of firepower. Even a top-level martial artist running at full speed would die without a doubt. However, this was not the scariest part. When the secondary and main cannons of the armed 125 opened fire at the same time, the inner force martial artists felt their blood run cold. Chen Guang was so shocked that he stood up straight from his seat. He thought he was watching a movie. What the hell, a laser cannon? Who the hell could dodge a laser cannon that traveled at the speed of light? Why wasn't this mentioned in the information? Was it because he was too shocked to write it down? This is the high-energy ion beam cannon. The elders just decided to display it this morning. What do you think? Strong enough, right? It's just that it takes a little longer to store energy, and the cooldown time after each launch is a little longer. Also, it's a little more difficult to manufacture, but there are no other flaws. Jiang Yuanchao sighed softly beside Chen Guang. Chen Guang also became serious. How many finished products are there now? 8. But there are 20 here. Chen Guang was puzzled. 12 of them are just for show. They're just ordinary infrared spotlights. They look like they're just there to scare people. Jiang Yuanchao said sneakily. Chen Guang was speechless. Uncle, you guys sure know how to have fun on such a serious occasion. After a long time, when the sun was setting in the west, this unique military exercise finally came to an end. Old Man Tan returned to the flag platform and bowed to everyone in the stands. Then, he solemnly said, "Reporting to Chief, the military exercise has come to a successful end." Many old men shook their numb legs and stood up. They did not deliberately provoke the warriors. Instead, they passionately said some words of encouragement to the many soldiers participating in the competition below the stage. This group of elite soldiers did not embarrass the military. From the time they were transferred here to the start of training on the new weapons to the successful completion of the mission, it had only been about 10 days. But throughout the process of the military exercise, they did not make any mistakes. They perfectly executed the instructions and demonstrated the power of the new equipment to the fullest. Although it was just a military exercise, it was not foolproof. The training time given to them was very short, and the equipment was very different from the conventional weapons. They were overloaded with training every day, and the equipment had not been thoroughly tested. There was a possibility of accidents happening at any time. Once an accident happened, it would be a big deal. Many accidents happened during the training. In serious cases, the equipment exploded more than once or twice. Since the start of the training, the number of dead soldiers had already reached double digits. Their blood and tears were hidden in places that outsiders could not see. Although it was just a top-secret internal exercise, every soldier understood the importance of this exercise. If the mission was completed well, they could fully demonstrate the power of the military's weapons and put enough pressure on the martial artists. But if they failed, made a mistake, or had an accident on the spot, people would find out that the equipment was experimental. They would question the power of the equipment, and then it would not be able to achieve the deterrent effect. Fortunately, they had finally completed the mission successfully today. Those brothers who had sacrificed themselves did not die in vain, and the leaders were not disappointed. Although it was not a battlefield, it was also to protect the country. The soldiers clenched their fists tightly, and beads of sweat ran down their cheeks. But they could not hide the excitement in their hearts, especially when they saw the serious expressions of the internal strength martial artists. It made the soldiers feel a sense of accomplishment. Chen Guang was also very satisfied with the performance of these students. Not bad, they did not embarrass the old man, the chief instructor. Chao Shiming's father turned around and said to him, "See? These people are all the elites of the military, and we do not know how many backbone members will emerge from them in the future. You know that they have received special training from Qin Guang in Shund. Look at their eyes carefully. Although they are being lectured by the old leader, many of them will subconsciously look in Qin Guang's direction. Do you know what this means? They worship Qin Guang a lot. What is going on in your head? You haven't even figured out the situation and you rashly started a feud with others. How did I give birth to such a stupid son like you?" Chao Shiming was scolded harshly. He felt wronged. There were also elites from the military who were selected for special training. You should have at least let one of them back to let me understand the situation. In the end, after the special training was over, you all sent them to closed-door training. How am I supposed to find out? How can you blame me for this? Aren't you my father? If you had told me about these things earlier, this wouldn't have been so troublesome. Forget it. A fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. You know what to do in the future. Old man Chao said this and did not say anything else. But at this time, the one who felt the most depressed was not Chao Shiming, but Sima Bei. At this time, there were only two words echoing repeatedly in his mind. The situation is lost. Director Ouyang had miscalculated. These years he had placed too much energy on the martial arts, but had neglected to infiltrate the administrative side. Unknowingly, the development of modern technology had completely exceeded their imagination. If these weapons could really be equipped on a large scale, not to mention on a large scale, as long as they reached a certain level, it would indeed be enough to form a terrifying torrent of steel. No matter how big the sect was, once they were caught, no one would be able to stop them. Sima Bei gritted his teeth. This group of old farts, they had made such a big move without saying anything. The evasive gazes of the martial artists on the viewing platform and the solemn expressions on their faces all indicated one thing. Flaunting one's military might would always be more effective than subservience. After today, there would definitely be people who would come looking for Qin Guang and his Guangding General Headquarters to declare their surrender. We are being pulled out from under the pot. The next step would be to clearly reduce the budget of the Special Affairs Bureau, lay off the staff, and further weaken the Special Affairs Bureau's sense of existence. Director Ouyang, what should we do now? Sima Bei looked up at the sky with some confusion and distress. No wonder Director Ouyang was unwilling to come in person. You must have already guessed this situation, right? Today was really an eye-opener. I didn't expect the military's weapons to be so terrifying, but I guess they haven't brought out everything yet. The information system required for special operations, the satellite navigation system floating in the sky, none of these have been revealed, but I have a feeling that they have a way to slowly find people. Sooner or later, no one will be able to hide. Wenwen tapped on her phone. Chen Guang replied, "I'm also quite surprised. Will it be a threat to you? It's still a little short of maturity, but I don't know in another 10 years. Won't you be even more powerful in another 10 years? What kind of treasures have you been eating these days? God knows, I don't even understand what's going on. Right, I'll be leaving first. See you at the motel, the small motel from last time. I'll wait for you there." After Wenwen finished speaking, she got up and flew to the front of the leaders in 2s and 3s. She first cupped her hands to the leaders and said, "Old leaders, I've really broadened my horizons today. When I go back, I'll definitely tell the world what I've seen and heard in the circle. As a citizen of Wuxia, it is an honor to be able to see such a strong country and strong army. Then I'll be leaving first." The old man in the middle imitated Wenwen's martial arts gesture and cupped his hands at her. "Sect leader Wen, are you not leaving after dinner?" Wenwen shook her head. "No, I still have important matters to attend to. I'll be leaving first. Goodbye." After saying that, she did not hesitate and flew down from the stands. In an instant, her figure disappeared outside the gate of the base, without a trace. She had only casually let go of her hand, but it had already caused many people's pupils to shrink violently. No one in the pugilistic world could match her qinggong. She was so fast that people couldn't even see her clearly. Unless they could trap her to death, it would be useless no matter how many people surrounded her. This girl is really straightforward, leaving just like that. Old man Jiang smacked his lips and said, Old man Jean was a little jealous. At the end of the day, people from the pugilistic world have strange tempers. Come on, old man Jean, don't be jealous. Chen Guang hasn't said anything yet. Old man Jiang comforted him. Your granddaughter still has a chance. Old leaders, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving too. As they were talking, Chen Guang came up to them again. Where are you going this time? Jiang Yuanchao, who was beside him, glared and asked. Chen Guang organized his words in his mind and really didn't know what to say. To be honest, he couldn't think of anything more important than the leader's dinner after the military exercise. But I can't just tell you guys that I'm going on a date with Wenwen, right? Therefore, he decided to try his nonsense. Well, I'm playing games with my friends tonight. Chapter 661. The old man in the middle, old Jiang, old Jean, all the other old men, Secretary Ma, who was quietly hiding at the side, all the young military personnel and political officials who were eavesdropping and watching from the side. To be honest, why don't you just say that you're going to find faction leader Wen? All right, you can go. Old Jean rubbed his brows and waved his hand. After Qin Guang ran far away, the other old men came to comfort old Jean. Old Jean, don't take it too hard. Chen Guang and faction leader Wen have known each other for a long time. They've always been good friends. Didn't I hear from Jingwei that they play games together every day in school? Maybe they're really playing games together? That's right, don't take it too hard. Sigh, unusual people do unusual things. We still lack understanding of martial arts practitioners. They really have a lot of quirks. Who would have thought that they're actually gaming fans? Isn't that mental opium that's very harmful? No, we have to go back and increase the anti-addiction system for all the games in the country. Even adults have to have anti-addiction systems. You're coming up with ideas again, aren't you? You'll be cursed to death by those youngsters. Old man Jean saw that everyone was discussing among themselves. Save it. Forget it. Children and grandchildren have their own lives. I don't care anymore. I can't care anymore. The people from the pugilistic world didn't stay for long either. One after another, they came to bid their farewells. No one was in the mood to eat at the state banquet. No matter how sumptuous the dishes on the table were, no one was in the mood to eat. Everyone was very uncertain and had to bring what they saw back to their sects as soon as possible to discuss. As for some of the sect masters who were there in person, most of them had already agreed to join the pugilistic world in advance. They were just making up their minds again. The next step was to find the Guangding General Office to discuss the specific details of the cooperation. Even some of the weaker sects didn't expect to reach an equal and mutually beneficial agreement. They just hoped that they wouldn't be restricted too much. The two sect masters of Thousand Despair Sect and Thousand Flower Valley were overjoyed. They had made the right choice to choose a side in advance. The only two deputy directors of the Guangding General Office were their eldest disciples. It didn't matter what other people would end up talking about, as long as he wouldn't suffer a loss. As for the methods to deal with the major sects, the old men already had a complete set of plans in mind. First of all, regardless of which sect it was, they could forget about treating the common people like ants. This was their bottom line, and it couldn't be touched. Secondly, the relationship between the two parties was still based on cooperation. They would enjoy certain privileges according to the degree of contribution they made. At the same time, they would also have to consider their own strength. The stronger they were, the greater the contribution they made, and the more privileges they would enjoy. Of course, the people of the Jianghu were sometimes hard to change. Under certain conditions or circumstances, the people of the Jianghu could still enjoy some privileges that ordinary people could not obtain. For example, they did not need to meddle in the affairs of their enemies. Or, even if there were civilian casualties, they would consider the cause of the incident. For example, if a group of hooligans ran into the hands of Jianghu people and provoked them, who could be blamed for that? No matter what, The situation facing the inner force martial artists was that they could no longer be as unbridled as before. They had to transform and restrain themselves. But not everyone was completely out of ideas. What do we do now? This is not the situation that Mr. Ng wants. In the crowd, there were still some people gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, discussing in low voices. You ask me, but who should I ask? Let Mr. Ng worry about it himself. We will see what he wants to do. You want to rebel against Mr. Ng? Don't talk nonsense. Do you believe that I will fight with you now? Just kidding. How can you make such a joke? Alas, who would have thought that the Wenwen family could make a comeback? Where did Wenwen get such an adventure? Her speed of improvement is really scary. Forget it. Let's go. Chen Guang borrowed a car from the base and drove happily on the road. He was in high spirits when there was a happy occasion. Although it was a hard day today, the result was still gratifying. The individual military exercise was really exciting. As a member of the Jianghu system, he felt at ease after watching it. Other than that, Wenwen had become stronger again. Of course, that was good news. Soon, I would be able to uproot the poison sect and the dark sect. By then, I and Wenwen would be avenged. Then, I would have nothing to worry about anymore. Most importantly, she was waiting for me in the motel. I smiled proudly and floated in the air. With such a happy mood, Chen Guang found a public parking lot in the town. Then, he took out the wig that he had prepared earlier from his bag and ran to the motel. Boss, I'm here again. The boss of the motel looked at Chen Guang quietly. Presidential Suite 301. The entire third floor is yours. Please pay a deposit of 10,000 yuan. Why is it so expensive? Since when did your crappy motel have a presidential suite? We didn't have one at first, but now we do. It was specially made for you and your wife. The quality is definitely not as good as a real presidential suite, but the price is almost right. After all, you have to break at least one of my beds every time. A bed doesn't cost 10,000 yuan. Your iron bed is inlaid with gold. I'm afraid that the building will collapse. Repairing it would cost at least 10,000 yuan. You're right. I'm speechless. That's settled then. Take out the money quickly. You look rich anyway. The boss chuckled. Suddenly, she frowned and raised her eyebrows. Young man, you have a good physique. You look familiar. Chen Guang was creeped out by her gaze. He threw 10,000 yuan down and rushed upstairs. I'm giving you 10,000 yuan. You don't have to return it. Don't gossip. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. The boss took the money. She did not remember who Chen Guang was. Forget it. I really don't understand the world of the rich. Chen Guang pushed the door open happily. I'm coming. Before he finished his sentence, he saw a black shadow pouncing at him like a fierce tiger. The strong wind blew against his face. He could not even stand steadily and fell backward subconsciously. Oh my God. Before he could finish his sentence, Chen Guang felt a pair of sharp claws grabbing his shoulders. He wanted to struggle, but he saw a pair of white palms coming for his forehead. Wait. Bang. He fainted without hesitation. Who knew what he had experienced that night? His great desolate force was almost sucked dry. Anyway, when he woke up, he was tied to a tree. He felt like his bones were about to fall apart when he moved slightly. What's going on? What happened last night? Why did I knock her out again? Must it be like this every time? Can't we be normal for once? She's going to say that we're innocent again, right? I know she's talking nonsense, but I can't refute her. He struggled to break the rope. He leaned against the tree and took out his phone. Only then did he see the long message Wenwen had sent him. Yes, that's right. Nothing happened yesterday. Very good. Shameless as always. I've become very powerful now, and I'm getting stronger with every passing moment. The poison sect and the dark sect have been forced into hiding by me. I'll be able to find their lair very soon. Sis, can you slow down a little? Otherwise, I'll feel like my efforts are meaningless. About 30% of the 3 aristocratic families, 8 major sects, 72 sects, and hundreds of small sects have secretly formed an alliance with me. We're just waiting for the final battle after we dig out their lair. But there are undercurrents in the martial arts world. The poison sect and the dark sect are also one of the 8 major sects and are very powerful. As far as I know, they've won over at least 30% of the people in the martial arts world. I don't know how they manage to attract others to form an alliance with them. Maybe there's something I don't know. But it doesn't matter. As long as I keep getting stronger, I might even surpass the level of Wenzong and become a legendary master. By then, no matter what tricks they have up their sleeves, they won't be my match. Haha. Initially, her words were very imposing, and Chen Guang was just about to give her a thumbs up. However, her 4 had completely shattered the image of this generation's expert. Sigh, she couldn't have become an idiot from practicing martial arts, could she? Forget it, even if she's an idiot, I can probably save her. Carefully landing on the ground along the tree trunk, Chen Guang decided to return to West Mountain. He glanced at the inn and felt a little uneasy. When he walked out of the forest, a rustling sound came from a tree about 50 to 60 meters away from the tree he was resting on. Wang jumped down from the tree, and when she landed, her legs were so weak that she almost fell on her butt. She had a smile on her face, one that seemed a little shy and a little bitter. She was right. Once she got close to him, she would completely lose control. It wasn't a simple emotional loss, but it was a loss of control from her body to her heart. Every inch of her soul would scream because of his approach, and every inch of her skin and flesh would tremble because of his attraction. He was like a lethal poison. It was really terrible. Was there antimatter hidden in this guy's body? Oh, but then again, he was too good at tormenting people. A dignified guru, was actually tormented by him? Wang tried to take 2 more steps, and then she tripped and fell on her back on the ground. She was very aggrieved and hammered the floor. I'm not coming again. I'm not coming again. Bastard. Oh, my stomach. It's so sour. Chen Guang hid far away and silently looked at the lady boss who was cursing with her hands on her hips. 10,000 yuan is not enough. The prefabricated board is broken. Which heartless animal sent people to torment me on purpose? Chen Guang silently touched his bald head and turned to leave. He thought to himself, although he fainted yesterday, it should also be a terrible and shocking battle. In fact, a lot of things happened in Yanjing City last night. The long-awaited gunshot rang for more than 20 minutes. Many people were awakened from their sleep and then nervously curled up in their homes. Ouyang Tianxing sat on a chair with a gloomy face. He was sitting on a fishing boat heading south along Lansong River. His crazy counterattack had failed. Not even in his wildest dreams did he expect that on that very night, there would be so many sect leaders of various sects and clans who had reached an agreement with the old men to stay overnight in Yanjing City. Less than 5 minutes after he launched his surprise attack, the sect leaders of the big sects and small sects began to arrive one after another. They began to fight with the inner force martial artists that he had managed to win over with great difficulty. There was a huge disparity in strength between the 2 sides. Other people's helpers were sect leaders, elders, and other core members. The people that he could find were mostly outer disciples who had been expelled from their sects or had no abilities. Other than that, some of the individual weapons that were displayed the day before were indeed very powerful. They caused devastating damage to the people that he sent out, and shortened the entire battle to less than half an hour. At the same time, all the special affairs bureaus were destroyed. Other than the spies that had already reached a compromise with the higher-ups, the rest were all arrested at the same time. Those who were arrested were all killed on the spot. Almost no one managed to escape. This was the style of the old men. They would either wait patiently, or they would plan before making a move. Once they were fully prepared, they would attack with the force of a thunderbolt, not giving any chance to struggle or resist. Ouyang Tianxing's sneaky tricks were nothing in front of the old men who had been running this country for decades. When the martial artists feared the power of modern military equipment, it was the time that the backing that Ouyang Tianxing was so proud of began to weaken. It was also the time for the old men to launch their thunderous attacks. However, Ouyang Tianxing never dreamed that their attacks would come so quickly and so fiercely. He thought that there would be a process of wrangling and negotiation, and then the Special Affairs Bureau would be gradually weakened until it was finally replaced. Then, he would be able to take the opportunity to catch them off guard. However, he did not expect that the other party would also be prepared to kill him today. I was fooled by the state banquet after their military exercise. These cunning old foxes. When Ouyang Tianxing realized that he could not do anything, he boarded the fishing boat without hesitation. The boss took $100,000 from him and promised to send him all the way to the southern border. Gradually, the sky outside brightened. A ray of sunlight shone through the round glass window in the cabin. Not only was the place where Ouyang Tianxing sat not illuminated, but it was also made even darker by the light. He slowly shrunk into the shadow, his body trembling uncontrollably. His fists were clenched tightly. He could not accept it. He had been working for more than a decade, but he had been uprooted in a short month. It was all just a dream. The sun slowly rose into the sky outside, but the light in the cabin grew dimmer and dimmer until it was pitch black. Even the sunlight from the window could not shine in. Chen Guang found out about the news at around 9 in the morning. He could not say how he felt about it. The Special Affairs Bureau had done all sorts of evil, and they should have met their end a long time ago. He had only participated and witnessed it from the side. Perhaps he had played an indispensable role in the middle, but the real main characters were still the old men. Even though they looked like they did not respect their elders in front of him, they were actually sharp stones that stood tall in the middle of the river in the torrent of history. If he underestimated them because of their jokes, he would end up like the Special Affairs Bureau. However, he was a little unhappy that he did not manage to catch the unlucky director Ouyang. It gave him a feeling that the culprit had not been punished. Chen Guang parked his car by the roadside and played with his phone out of boredom. He thought to himself, "Director Ouyang, every debt has a debtor. Don't come looking for trouble with me for no reason." Chapter 662. In fact, he knew that he didn't have to worry about it. The old men's military exercise was too successful. Even Wang Lin felt threatened, let alone others. If he was Ouyang Tianxing or the leader of the dark sect or poison sect, he would know that it was pointless to focus on a small fry like him. Even if I die, the old men will just send another director to take my position. Even if my communication with Wang Lin and the other martial artists isn't smooth, it won't affect the overall situation. Chen Guang was a little disheartened. I'm not that important. Forget it, being a small fry has its advantages. At least when the sky falls, the tall ones will die first. Besides, I'm not really that small. The Guangding General Bureau named after the old man is at least a vice-ministerial level. The old man is the director, right? Have you ever seen a 21-year-old official? Are you afraid? Are you nervous? Do you want to learn? Sorry, others can't learn. What if Lin Jingwei or another second or third generation tried to take my position? That would cause an uproar. Other second or third generations were promoted. Just like Uncle Wu, they had to climb up one step at a time. If they made a mistake in the middle and fell, it would basically be the end of their life. It took Wu Shan decades to climb to the same rank as Chen Guang. Too many things happened during this period, and he paid a huge price. He even lost his wife and son. Wu Tong still hadn't truly forgiven him. Just thinking about it made him feel tired. However, Chen Guang only used less than half a month. He was carried up while lying on the ground. He had to do it. Although he didn't take it seriously, this was a unique miracle in the entire country and since the founding of China. Of course, there would be people who were secretly dissatisfied. There were many people like Chao Shiming. However, after yesterday, there would probably be fewer people who were dissatisfied. Now, his importance was not limited to Wang Lin alone. It had been proven that he was also a link between the Wuxia government and inner force martial artists. He seemed to have a unique experience in dealing with inner force martial artists. The elders treated him as a diplomat in Wuxia. In addition, among the thousands of elite soldiers and police officers who had received his special training in the special training area of Shund, only about 40 of them had really learned his skills. However, the rest of them had also witnessed his incredible ability to turn stone into gold with their own eyes. They had also witnessed his amazing dart skills on the spot, so they were sincerely convinced by him as the chief drill master. Just as old man Chao had said, all of this would be the accumulation of Qin Guang's experience and prestige in the army in the future. Regardless of whether he would officially enter the military in the future, these were his qualifications and connections. In the future, he would be familiar with his face wherever he went, and he would be able to swipe his face card everywhere. Chen Guang slapped the steering wheel. Alas, the old man originally wanted to rely on his pair of iron fists to make a name for himself, but unknowingly he became the most powerful person in China. How could he endure this? What do I need this iron rod for? I have so many tricks up my sleeves, but in the end, I'm just a pitiful face card. With a long sigh, he started the car again. Just as he was about to continue to the city, a black Audi suddenly rushed up from the back. A sense of crisis arose in Qin Guang's heart. This person has bad intentions. All right, I'm regretting it now. Actually, I prefer to live a peaceful life. I only wanted to show off a little in my heart, and someone immediately rushed out to take my life. This karmic retribution came too quickly. If Qin Guang could start the car, with his driving skills, the Audi would not be able to catch up with him. However, he had just started the car, and the other person had already rushed up to him at full speed. A deafening sound of brakes rang out, and then the Audi slammed into the side door of Qin Guang's car, causing his car to tilt up slightly. Fortunately, Qin Guang reacted quickly. Seeing that the situation was not good, he jumped to the side and jumped to the passenger seat. Otherwise, his whole body might have been wrapped in the deformed car. But at the same time, the violent vibration of the car caused him to hit the roof cover, and he was a little dizzy. Without much time to think, Qin Guang grabbed the satchel on the passenger seat, opened the passenger door, and jumped out. He wrapped the satchel around his waist and was on full alert. Two people rushed out of the Audi. They were dressed in black, and their faces were covered. One of them was holding a narrow triangular poisonous blade, and they surrounded Qin Guang from both sides. Qin Guang, it's time for you to go to hell. One of them said in a low, muffled voice. The other person also smiled sinisterly. I thought I wouldn't have a chance to find you in the middle of the night. It's really a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find you by chance. If the heavens want you dead, you have to die. Although the two of them were shouting arrogantly, their eyes were extremely solemn. Although they didn't have much information on Qin Guang, they knew that he didn't have any internal energy. However, they knew that Qin Guang had a myriad of tricks up his sleeves despite not having any internal energy. Not to mention that his darts and hidden weapons were the best in the world. His arms were extremely powerful, and he didn't even need to use internal energy to injure others. Other than that, they also heard that Qin Guang was the kind of person who risked his life. If there was a disagreement, he would exchange injury for injury and defeat the strong with the weak. The danger came too suddenly and too hastily. Qin Guang swept his eyes over them, but he could not tell how strong they were. However, from the way they walked and the way they held their sabers, he could tell that they had real martial arts. They were much more powerful than the two Poison Sect and Dark Sect subordinates he had chased in the forest outside Xishan town. They were most likely Bone Force martial artists. There was no way they could run. F***ck, if I can't beat them, the old man will run first. How dare the two of you try to fight me? Ouyang Tianxing has already been executed. Are you two lackeys going to avenge him? Qin Guang lied through his teeth, completely guessing the other party's identity. His hands shook, and a total of 8 darts slipped out of his waist bag. He held them in his left and right hands. What? Impossible. Bureau Chief Ouyang is a genius. How could something happen to him? Don't try to bluff us. He didn't think that his nonsense would actually lead to the truth. As expected, they're assassins sent by Ouyang Tianxing. Qin Guang thought to himself. That's right. How could they only target the old man? I'm an important person too. How could I be completely ignored? The old man is still valued. That's right, I'm important. A sense of pride rose in his heart. F***ck, what time is this and I'm still showing off? Why would I lie to you? If you don't believe me, try contacting them yourself. Just last night, the Special Affairs Bureau was almost wiped out, okay? Fine, Ouyang Tianxing is not dead, but he fled to avoid punishment. But you too didn't receive the news? You're abandoned. Seriously, bro, put down the butcher's knife. It's not too late to surrender now. I'm the bureau chief of the Guangding General Headquarters. With me protecting you, you'll have a good life with me in the future. It'll be much better than following Ouyang Tianxing and putting your lives on the line. Chen Guang said tentatively as he slowly retreated. The enemy was strong while he was weak. First show the enemy that we're weak, then reason with them, and finally lure them with benefits. This was all a trick. In the end, he wasn't wrong. Ever since the two of them received Ouyang Tianxing's order to chase after Chen Guang, they had completely cut off contact with their superiors. The reason why the Special Case Bureau used a single line of communication was to prevent any information from being leaked, but it had now become a problem. The two of them searched for Chen Guang all night. They only knew that Chen Guang had come to West Mountain, but how could they keep up with Wenwen's movements? Like headless flies, they searched for nothing the whole night. It was only when they were about to give up on the mission and leave in the morning that they saw Chen Guang's car parked by the side of the road. That was why this happened. Is what you're saying true? One of them was already wavering. Don't believe his nonsense. Don't you know he's a cunning man? Cut the crap, take his head to see Bureau Chief Ouyang. The other person seemed to be more determined and said coldly. Chen Guang's gaze sharpened. Then you'd better think carefully. The person who gave you the credit has already fled, but if you take my life, then you won't have any place to hide in this world. Think about who I am? Am I just the bureau chief of the Guangding General Headquarters? Puma, do you understand? Sigh, I didn't think that there would be a day when I would say something like this. My illustrious reputation has been destroyed in an instant. This is the same logic as those second generations asking others if they know who their father is when they are being chased and beaten. Don't even think of scaring us. Since we dared to come, we're naturally not afraid of the Wen family's she-devil. Bureau Chief Ouyang has his own arrangements. The guy who had been very determined earlier seemed to have steeled his heart. Chen Guang was speechless. This guy must have a hole in his head. How did such a stupid person cultivate bone force? Alright, since the two of you are so stubborn, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Chen Guang no longer retreated. He turned and stood his ground, looking at the two people with a cold and domineering face. Do you really think that I don't cultivate inner strength like the rumors say? Ignorant. If I was really that useless, why would Wenwen like me? To tell you the truth, Wenwen's ability is not even 1/10 of the old man's. Yes, that's right. Congratulations. You can finally see the ability of the real big boss. What? The two of them were shocked. They even guessed that Chen Guang was bluffing, but his words were so logical that it made them believe him. But there was no inner strength surging from his body. Could it be that he had reached the stage of returning to his original state? The more they thought about it, the more they felt that it was possible. In addition, Chen Guang looked so confident and domineering at this time, which made them even more alarmed. They clenched the poisonous blades in their hands and tightened their muscles to be on guard. I'll show you the lost technique of Jianghu, Buddha's godly dart. Chen Guang slowly raised his hands. What the F***CK, big brother, do you have to name this move so domineering? Also, why did you shout out the name of the move? Take this. Chen Guang didn't waste any more time. He shook his hands at the same time, and 8 darts whistled through the air, pouncing on the two people's heads, hearts, and lower bodies. One dart was deliberately shot to the side, which was called block movement. The two people were shocked by Chen Guang. The darts came too fast, and the angle was too tricky. It was extremely difficult to dodge. They were indeed masters of bone strength. At this critical moment, the two people waved their poisonous blades and twisted their bodies. The poisonous blades deflected 2 darts, and they dodged 2 darts. They were safe and sound. Strange, why didn't they carry inner strength? Although the strength of these darts is very strong, and ordinary people definitely can't hit them, the speed is also so fast, and the angle is also tricky. But without inner strength, they can't hurt us. F***CK, we were tricked. It turned out that Chen Guang had already started running. In the blink of an eye, he was already 200 to 300 meters away from the road into the farmland. This guy was really bluffing. Chase him. This B** starred is full of tricks. Chen Guang didn't care about what was behind him. He ran as fast as he could, cursing. I've seen too many idiots like you. You have so many lines to say before you kill someone. You're not straightforward at all. I have 10,000 ways to kill you, okay? Kill me with your head. The old man not only had the Qilin arm, but he also had the heavenly leg breaker and Aeolus calf. As he ran, he took out his phone and called someone. Coincidentally, he dialed the number he saved when he exchanged numbers with Jiang Yuanchao 2 days ago. Qin Guang? Uncle Jiang? Hurry up and fix my position. Help. These two idiots still don't know that Ouyang Tianxing is in trouble. They're still working for him. They're following me, trying to kill me. These two are probably bone gene cultivators. I'm no match for them. Help. Jiang Yuanchao slammed the table and stood up. Everyone in the meeting room looked at him blankly. This was a high-level meeting. The host of the meeting was Chao Shiming's father. They were discussing the next step to completely annihilate the remnants of the Special Affairs Bureau, how to maintain stability in the current situation, and so on. Little Jiang, what's going on? Old Master Chao asked. Jiang Yuanchao looked down at his phone. Chen Guang had already hung up. He took a deep breath. Chen Guang is being hunted down by the two remnants of the martial artists that Ouyang Tianxing recruited. He's in a critical situation. What? In the huge meeting room, hundreds of people stood up at the same time. Old Master Chao was covered in cold sweat. Quick! Save him! Old Master Chao clutched his chest and was about to collapse. He was not sick at first, but he was so scared that he almost had a heart attack. In the farmland, Chen Guang was still running at full speed. His speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. He estimated that with his speed, he could easily win the 100-meter sprint in the Olympics. However, the two people chasing behind him were not to be trifled with. After all, they had inner force and had their own turbocharged power. They were not slow either. Fortunately, these two idiots did not know how to use hidden weapons, nor did they have any interest in modern firearms. Otherwise, these two idiots would shoot at him while running. That would be a real pain in the ass. Stop right there. The people behind shouted as they chased after him. Do you think I'm stupid? Chen Guang retorted sarcastically. Die obediently, and I'll leave your corpse intact. The other person followed up and cursed. I'm already dead. What's the difference between an intact corpse and a minced meat? I don't feel anything anyway. At the same time, Chen Guang started to criticize the two of them for their ignorance. You obviously don't have inner force. How can you run so well? This is called talent. Do you want to learn? After learning it, I guarantee that you'll improve by leaps and bounds. Really, don't mess around with Ouyang Tianxing. What benefits did he give you? I'll give you double. Alright, I agree. Please stop for a moment. We'll discuss the details in detail. No. You guys leave first today. We'll discuss it another day. I don't trust you guys now. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. You guys want to fool me? Can you guys train for another 10 years? However, after running for a long time, he realized that something was wrong. The tibialis anterior muscles in his feet and calves were very powerful, but he was too biased. There was a burning pain coming from his thighs. His thighs were about to collapse. The feeling on his calves was even more unique. A part of his muscles was in pain, but the other part did not feel anything. It was as if he had just run a little. This kind of disorderly comfort and pain mixed together was more exciting than horse slaughter. If this continued, he would be done for sooner or later. His thighs would definitely not last until reinforcements arrived. What should he do in this situation? If he could not solve his internal affairs, he would ask Lioli. Lord Lioli, help. Your savior is about to die. He used his hand to squeeze the cup in his bag and screamed at the top of his lungs. Chapter 663. Lily said, So be it. At most, I'll find someone more obedient next time. Don't be so heartless. Where are you going to find another adorable savior like me? The muscles on his thighs were getting more and more painful. Chen Guang had a vague feeling that this illness was called a thigh muscle strain. There's some truth to it. Yes, that's right. Can we hurry up and think of a solution? It's time to show Master Liuli your elegance. Chen Guang continued to negotiate with her. Please hurry up and give me an idea. These two bastards are going to eat me. Liuli's figure gradually appeared in Chen Guang's heart and slowly condensed in his mind. However, her current image seemed a little strange. She was sitting on the ground with her legs crossed like an old monk with her eyes closed, looking as solemn as a Buddha. If it weren't for the fact that she was still naked with only 3 small clouds covering her sensitive areas, Chen Guang would have thought that he was looking at a bodhisattva. At this moment, these two people, one was running for his life outside, while the other was sitting cross-legged like an old monk in his heart. It was really strange and out of place. Liuli, can you have a little sense of urgency? There are 2 murderers chasing after me, okay? Chen Guang continued to howl in his heart as he ran. However, Liuli waved her hand very peacefully. Don't worry, benefactor. Don't panic. Wait for this empress to calculate for you. What have you been watching recently that you shouldn't be watching? Recently, I've been taking some time out of my busy schedule to watch some old TV series about legends and monsters, such as the new Bai Nyangzi legend. I feel that the female lead is quite elegant. What's wrong with learning? Bai Suzhen won't say benefactor, but she won't calculate with her fingers, right? Oh, then I went to find some old TV series about this female lead. I just watched The Legend of Goddess of Mercy yesterday, so today, you call this taking a break from your busy schedule? I think you're just bored out of your mind. You even watched such an unpopular TV series. Aren't you going to act in movies and TV series? This empress has been working so hard to expand my knowledge in order to assist you with all my heart, but you don't even praise me a little. It's really unfair. Perhaps because Liuli had watched too many TV series about Zhao Yaji, her tone became even more gentle. Lord Azure is the best. All right, I've already praised you. Please save my life. How insincere. Forget it. Seeing that you're so busy, yet you're still able to talk to me so casually, I'm very satisfied with the improvement of your temperament. I'll help you. It's true. If you drag on any longer, I'll really die. Just these 2 small fries behind you. If I were to recover 1/10,000th of my strength, no 1/10000000th of it, I would be able to crush them to death with a flip of my hand. Can we not talk about what-ifs? Give me something useful. For the first time, Chen Guang felt that chatting with Liuli was such a tiring thing. All right. Even if I'm in such a weak state, I still have 36 methods that can help you avert danger. Listen to me carefully. Please don't imitate the Goddess of Mercy's voice anymore. Please, merciful Master Lu Li, save me first. Don't be anxious. Then I'll tell you the 2 most reliable plans. 1. Spend all of your remaining 7 million faith points to speed up the Heavens Line Cup Intermediate Realm. Then, please continue to pray. Who knows, it might just be enough to activate the next Heavens Line Cup Intermediate Realm. Chen Guang pinched his fingers and calculated. That's right. It's been almost 20 days since the last Heavens Line Cup Intermediate Realm. Calculating the time, the next one should be coming soon. Liuli once said that the most basic requirement for the Heavens Line Cup Intermediate Realm was 6 million. If he really spent 7 million faith points, it seemed that there was a chance of activating it. However, it was a little unstable. What if it didn't activate? After all, it was a random entry into the Cup Intermediate Realm within 24 hours. What if he had to wait for the full 24 hours? Or what if he entered but was unable to practice the Cup Intermediate Realm that could help change the current situation? If anything were to happen to them, they would be dead for sure. Then what about the second plan? Chen Guang asked. You continue to grit your teeth and keep running. At most, you can hold on for another hour. Your friends will definitely come to save you in time. Then the question is, what is your role in the second plan? Chen Guang asked again. Liuli said without hesitation, I'm cheering for you. Come on. Chen Guang, So, I'll choose the first plan. After waiting for a few minutes, there was still no movement. It seemed that the Heavens Line Cup Intermediate Realm was about to fail. There was no reason to talk about the Cup Intermediate Realm. It would come if he said it would. If he said it wouldn't come. What else could he do? Does it mean that I'm really finished? Chen Guang thought to himself. Liuli definitely wouldn't do such a thing. She must have a way to easily get him out of danger. She just didn't say it on purpose to increase his sense of urgency and let him continuously improve his strength in this life and death crisis. That's right. That must be it. That was how it was written in novels. The old grandpa would create a series of extreme training programs for the protagonist. Every time, the male protagonist would feel the threat of death in a dangerous situation. Using this sense of urgency, the male protagonist would constantly surpass himself and break through his limits. But in fact, when the male protagonist really encountered a crisis that he couldn't escape from, the old grandpa would use all kinds of methods to save the male protagonist's life. Yes, Madame Liuli was the God Emperor. This life-saving method was a piece of cake. Wake up, it's time to take your medicine. I really don't know what to do this time. Think about how you survived last time when you were almost killed by the grenade. Liuli reminded him. Chen Guang immediately recalled. Yes, he was almost killed by the grenade. Luckily, he was smart enough to think of picking up the grenade in time and throwing it into the cup. Later, Liuli almost completely lost her strength in order to open the lid and release the power of the grenade. She really didn't seem to have a good way to deal with the outside world. After a series of careful and rigorous reasoning, as well as an intense negotiation with Liuli, Chen Guang came to the following conclusion. In the face of the current situation, the simplest way for him to deal with it was to pray for the best. Chen Guang, can you stop running? Aren't you tired? The pursuers behind him began to clamor again. Unknowingly, the distance between the two of them had shortened. Chen Guang was also angry. In terms of physical strength, these two were not much stronger than him, but they were bullying him with their inner force. Wait until I learn the painting scroll in my sling bag. Do you think you two weaklings can kill me? Can you stop chasing me? The two of you and I hit it off at first sight. Can't we just talk things over? Why do you have to fight to the death like this? I'm not lying to you. If the Special Affairs Bureau is really done for, Ouyang Tianxing won't be able to escape. He'll die sooner or later. Why do you have to risk your lives for him? I'm indebted to Master Ouyang. If he's really dead, I'll bring your head down to hell to meet him. It'll be the same. No wonder the short man was so determined. It turned out that he owed Ouyang Tianxing a favor. What about the other one? Chen Guang had an idea about the tall man who was not very determined. I'm just getting paid. A salary that can attract martial artists can't be ordinary money, right? I can give you double what Ouyang Tianxing gave you. Think about it, he's just the director of the lousy Special Affairs Bureau. How can he compare to me, the director of the Guangding General Directorate, who's so spoiled that I can have a word with him wherever I go? Also, you know about the Wen family's hidden treasures. We can get whatever we want from the Wen family's treasury. The tall man was indeed tempted. Don't believe his nonsense. The short man saw that the situation was not right and roared. Seeing that his plan had failed, Chen Guang could only continue running. This guy's getting slower. He won't be able to last long. The short man clenched his teeth. Although he had the help of his inner force, running at full speed for more than 10 minutes was still quite tiring. He hated himself for not having any talent in Qigong when he was practicing martial arts. Otherwise, the young man would have caught up to him long ago. Do we really have to kill him? Or capture him alive? The tall man was a little hesitant. He's so cunning. If you want to capture him alive, you'll only be throwing your life away. The short man convinced the tall man again. The three of them chased each other in the field. They were having fun. The three of them are really fast. Are they athletes? They're training so hard in the morning. They'll definitely bring glory to the country in the future. Good luck. The farmers who were farming in the field waved at the three of them enthusiastically. After the three of them ran far away, a farmer scratched his head in confusion. What did the man in front of us say to us? Call the police? He was spitting white bubbles as he ran. I didn't hear him clearly. No, it should be loyal to the country. Maybe it's the slogan of a long-distance running team. At least the farmers weren't wrong about one thing. Chen Guang was really foaming at the mouth. Before today, Chen Guang would never have thought that he could run so well. After all, he was a veteran otaku. Even though his talent in sports wasn't bad, he was still able to lie on his bed and play games in his dorm room. He was too lazy to even leave his room. His fit and beautiful body was all thanks to the instantaneous ocean. Asking him to go out and exercise was basically asking for his life. He didn't know where Uncle Zhang's reinforcements were, but he was getting more and more tired. Not to mention the fatigue on his waist, part of his calf muscles and his entire thighs seemed to be on fire. Every time he took a step, he felt like 1,000 needles were pricking his thigh. He wished he could take out a knife and cut off the muscles on his thigh piece by piece. He raised his head silently. Looking at the bright sun that had risen to the middle of the sky in the morning, he gradually lost himself. How he missed the days when he ran and played football with a group of friends in high school. Those were all old youth. No matter how hard and tired he was, he couldn't burn the hot blood of running. How he longed to run like this forever, just like Forrest Gump. I have good news. The world in the cup that you wanted has arrived. Please check it. At this time, Lioli was still in the mood to tease him. I know you believe Chen Guang's **T and think that Master Ouyang is really in trouble. I won't stop you. Go on your own. I can take care of this myself, but don't blame Master Ouyang for what he will do to you later. The short man was enraged. He sprinted forward again. Although he was also at the end of his rope, he still had more strength than Chen Guang. Jiang Yuanchao sat in the helicopter with the sword-wielding nun from the Thousand Despair sect and the beautiful woman in a flowery dress from the Thousand Flower Valley. Both of them were martial artists at the pinnacle of skin strength. Although they were no match for Wenwen, they were considered top-notch martial artists among the ordinary martial artists. Oh no, Chen Guang is about to fall. Can Mr. Jiang go any faster? The sword-wielding nun shouted anxiously. She had excellent eyesight and could see from afar that Chen Guang was not in a good condition. The beautiful woman in a flowery dress also said, "There's an air of death around this kid. He's running with his life on the line." Jiang Yuanchao also used a pair of binoculars to watch Chen Guang stumble forward in the field. Although his posture was awkward and he looked like he was about to fall at any moment, his speed was extremely fast as he moved forward step by step. Before this, Jiang Yuanchao's impression of Chen Guang was only at the level of admiration, but at this moment he finally understood what kind of terrifying potential and strong will this kid's seemingly not overly muscular body actually contained. It had been about 35 minutes since he received his call and confirmed his location, and he had already covered a distance of 16 kilometers on the map. This meant that he had been running at a speed of nearly 13 seconds for 100 meters for 35 minutes. An average speed of 7.69 meters per second. The men's 10,000-meter record for the Rio Olympics was 27 minutes 01 seconds, an average speed of 6.17 meters per second. Chen Guang's distance was longer and his speed was faster. He had broken the Olympic record by 24.64%. He can't go any faster. This is the limit of the helicopter. Masters, is it true that Chen Guang didn't practice inner force? Jiang Yuanchao asked. The sword-wielding nun nodded heavily. Of course not. Based on the bone structure he displayed, even if he only practiced muscle gene, the two people who just started bone gene wouldn't be able to push him to this extent. Is Chen Guang's bone structure really that scary? Also, what is bone structure? Jiang Yuanchao asked curiously. The beautiful woman in a flowery dress thought for a moment. Mr. Jiang, according to the rules in the past, we can't tell you these things. But now we can tell you. The so-called bone structure, in the eyes of ordinary people like you, refers to a person's physique or refers to his athletic talent. For us martial artists to practice inner force, we first choose disciples with excellent bone structure. Then, through years of external training, our body will be tempered, and our functions will be strengthened. Finally, we will reach the standard of activating inner force. Chen Guang's situation is extremely bizarre. His arms and legs are missing, and he can be considered a rare genius. In the eyes of us martial artists, he's someone who has reached the pinnacle of his physique and can trigger his internal energy. Just like dry wood Lai Hua, as long as he is given the seed of inner force, he can become a genius disciple immediately and make great progress. Then why hasn't faction leader Wen taught him martial arts? Jiang Yuanchao asked curiously. Sect Master Wen did pass it down, and it's the Wen clan's strongest martial art, the painting scroll. It's just that the other parts of Qin Guang's body are mediocre. So this matter might sound simple, but it's actually complicated. I see. In other words, Chen Guang is an unorthodox genius? The sword-wielding nun concluded, you can say that. He's a genius who is partial to a particular subject. It seems that every once in a while, a certain part of his body will suddenly become perfect. This is what my disciple told me. If his entire body becomes perfect, it's only a matter of time before he becomes stronger than Sect Master Wen in the future. If Chen Guang knew that these people were still in the mood to discuss his bone structure, he would definitely curse the 3 female juniors in his family. But now, he had no time to think about this. Finally, when he passed by a ridge of fields, he accidentally stepped on a banana peel and fell backward. Looking at the sky that was getting brighter and brighter, he lay quietly on the ground. His mind was in a daze, as if his soul had been sucked dry, and his life was over. Dying like this is such a waste. Sure enough, one must cultivate inner force to live. Our Wen could slap a bunch of these weaklings to death with a single slap, right? Wen teacher Zhua, oh, and Annie from the instantaneous sea, after I die, please don't remarry. Just as he was thinking about this, his soul was really sucked out. What? My darling, the world in a cup. You're finally here. He lay quietly, and before he knew it, tears fell from the corners of his eyes. He didn't know if it was because he was touched or because his hormones were out of balance. Chapter 665. When his soul appeared in the cup world, he was still lying down. Gautama Buddha was enlightened under the twin Baoyuo trees, while Chen Guang was lying under the deer flower and turned into a dead dog. He really had no strength at all. Although the fatigue and pain were on the body, his soul seemed to be frozen. Deer flower slightly bent her body, and the huge corolla covered Chen Guang's head like an umbrella. He doesn't have any energy. Liuli also flew out of Cloud City and landed beside Chen Guang. It seems so. This is too miserable. He won't become a retard, right? Although Deer Flower always said that she wanted Liuli to kill Chen Guang, when it really came to this, she was worried again. Liuli shook her head indifferently. How is this possible? Do you believe that I can resurrect him with full HP in 1 second? Deer Flower shook her head. I don't believe it. Liuli provocatively raised her neck. Don't look at him like this. It's just that the physical pain outside exceeded the limit of his mind. Now that he has entered the cup world, his soul has been separated from his body, so he doesn't feel any pain anymore. It's just that he hasn't recovered for a while. I only need to do one thing and he will immediately jump up. Really? How to do it? Liuli blushed for a moment. She was a little hesitant for a moment, but soon she made up her mind, thinking that with her current appearance, sooner or later she would let this guy see all the benefits. She might as well let him have it easy. In a moment, he will enter the cup world, and I will help him adjust his state in advance. Thinking about it carefully, is this my obligation? Therefore, Liuli only did one thing, pretending to casually walk past Chen Guang. Then, when she passed by him, she accidentally dispersed the clouds covering his waist and thighs for a moment. Automatic Cruise Anti-Exposure System activated. Instinctive Automatic Search Anti-Exposure Point Capture Device activated. Target locked. Focus adjusted. Image fixed. Artificial Intelligence Storage activated. Click. He survived. Resurrected with full HP. In a sense, Liuli really understood Chen Guang very well. See? I told you that he instantly recovered to full health. Azure calmed herself down and pointed at Chen Guang, who was sitting on the ground, and chuckled. Lu Minghua was even more dumbfounded. This guy is terrifyingly honest. Sister Lioli, this move of yours is really brilliant, really brilliant. Hey, stinking brat, since you're awake, get up and move a bit. You've done it so hastily today, don't expect to be able to enter the instantaneous sea this time. In this emperor's opinion, it's most likely the beggar version. Chen Guang's body trembled as he recalled the fear of being dominated by the armored world in a cup. No way. The Grand One-Line Sky also has a beggar version? Why can't there be? Chen Guang began to use his brain to think about what the legendary beggar version of the One-Line Sky Cup would look like. But he quickly gave up, because with his pitiful understanding of the heavenly Holy Grail and the fact that this unlucky Holy Grail was often unreasonable, he couldn't understand anything at all. Lioli silently patted Chen Guang's shoulder. Anyway, my condolences. Perseverance is victory. The dawn is right in front of you. Just grit your teeth and you'll be able to get through it. Thank you, Lady Lioli, for your encouragement. Chen Guang turned around and silently thanked her. Lioli looked at his affectionate eyes. Then, there's one more thing that I'm afraid I have to tell you. Please tell me. I roughly know what the world in a cup will look like. You'll probably die very miserably. Will I really die? That won't happen. This time, there's a total of 999 chances to resurrect. It should be enough for you, right? Chen Guang was overjoyed at first. Oh, not bad. 999 times. But he quickly lost his pride. On second thought, this didn't seem to be good news. There were many chances to resurrect. This meant that the world in a cup would be unprecedentedly exciting. Could it be that he would ascend to the heavens at any moment? Every time he died and resurrected in the world in a cup, it would definitely consume energy. If it wasn't necessary, the Holy Grail wouldn't give him 999 chances to resurrect. It was a beggar version and 999 chances to resurrect. How scary would that be? It was terrifying to think about it. Chen Guang turned around and looked at Lioli with an ashen face. Lady Lioli, can I return it? What do you think? Have a safe trip. With a wave of Lioli's hand, Chen Guang, who was sitting on the ground, was sucked away. It was as if the Monkey King had called out his name and was sucked into the gourd. As Chen Guang flew through the spatial tunnel, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that all his hopes had been dashed. He could only hope that this trip to the world within a cup had something to do with his escape. Otherwise, he would truly be unlucky today. Hitting his head on the hard plastic, Chen Guang stood up in a daze and looked around. In short, it was a blessing that he wasn't wearing armor. It seemed that because the cup was lying horizontally, the place where Chen Guang was standing was like a prototype tunnel about 10 meters long and 2 to 3 meters high. Presumably, this tunnel was the entire scope of the beggar version of the world in a line of sky cup. Thank God, the line of sky was still better than the sky of spirit. Stepping on the ground, it felt like a rubber track, but also like the treadmill that Chen Guang had accidentally touched before. The walls of the tunnel were illuminated with soft white lights, looking very high-tech. Suddenly, the entire tunnel suddenly glowed with a white glow and became bright, just like the opening scene in the movie. Chen Guang looked up and vaguely saw the sky through the light curtain formed by the cup wall. A huge, pure white feather slowly fell from the sky. The sky was gloomy with heavy black clouds. A spire and a house slowly appeared in front of him. Chen Guang looked around, his eyes following the feather. Finally, he lowered his head. The leaf had already flown to his feet through the light curtain formed by the cup wall. He remembered the movie. Yes, that's right, I just thought about the movie Forrest Gump. So this time, the beggar version of the world in a line of sky cup was really going to incarnate as Forrest Gump in Forrest Gump. This is good, it's really used for escaping. But Forrest Gump in the movie ran all over the world, or at least all over the United States. But I'm trapped in the capsule channel. How can I escape? The world in a cup soon gave him the answer. The movie scene began to change. At the same time, the prompt of the heavenly Holy Grail appeared in his ears. It was a very straightforward sentence. Run. Guang. Chen Guang shrugged. Wouldn't it be shameful if I ran just because you asked me to? But the rubber track under his feet, which looked like a conveyor belt, suddenly began to slide backward. Chen Guang understood that it was just a large treadmill. The super-reduced movie scene of Forrest Gump was just to barely improve the user experience. Humph, even if it was a treadmill, I still wouldn't move. What could it do to me? Chen Guang shrugged and then suddenly looked back. But when he saw the cold light behind him, his hair immediately stood on end. It turned out that at the end of the capsule channel, there were dense, sharp knives sticking out. At first glance, it looked like a huge hedgehog was stuffed there. The difference was that these sharp knives were sharper. The product of the world in a cup must be the best. Even if it was a fatal trap, it certainly couldn't be taken lightly. Although Chen Guang was an awkward person, his biggest advantage was that he knew how to act according to the circumstances. Seeing that he couldn't win the world in a cup, he decisively ran away. Although his body in the outside world had completely collapsed, after his spirit body entered the world in a cup, it seemed that he had a new body. When he started to run, he received another prompt from the heavenly Holy Grail. Finally, he confirmed the training direction of the world in a cup. Most of the strengthening content was concentrated on the legs. Unlike the Spirit Sky, which only focused on one muscle, the One-Line Sky's training was more comprehensive and detailed, including the whole legs, the overall coordination of the body when running, and so on. But because his feet, ankles, Achilles tendons, calves, tibialis anterior muscles, and so on had already reached the extreme in the special training, no amount of training would have any effect. This One-Line Sky's world in a cup training could improve the other muscles of his legs to a level close to that of the heaven-destroying foot plate and the wind god's calf. After experiencing the One-Line Sky cup twice, Chen Guang concluded that the One-Line Sky was stronger than the Spirit Sky. It was more comprehensive, more detailed, and could also involve more things on the spiritual level. If he wanted to build a perfect body in all aspects, he needed to go through a total of 40 Spirit Sky special training. So far, he had already completed 3 customized special training. After successfully completing the One-Line Sky cup this time, he could fill in the remaining 10 muscle groups in his legs, which was equivalent to 10 customized Spirit Sky cup training. He could also carry out preliminary adjustments and improvements to his upper body, and the effect was slightly stronger than the Qilin Arm world last time. In fact, the Qilin Arm world was much stronger than the ordinary Spirit Sky cup. After all, it was a reward for completing the World of Life punishment mission, one of the special worlds, so it was natural that its effect was superior. He ran to his heart's content in the capsule tunnel, and the movie scenes on the light screen on the wall of the cup kept rewinding. He ran through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, ran across the American continent, and then crossed the Bering Strait. He continued to run, never stopping, and he did not know fatigue. He was even more forgiving than Forrest Gump. At least he could sleep, and he could sit on a chair in the park and discuss chocolate with others. For Chen Guang, running was the only philosophy of life for him in the world in a cup. Chen Guang thought of a song. That song was called Chasing Dreams with a Childlike Heart. Well, what greeted him was not cold eyes or ridicule, but the cold and deadly blade behind him. The speed of the conveyor belt was getting faster and faster, and it gradually surpassed Chen Guang's current limit. The blade behind him was getting closer and closer, and he could even smell the strong smell of metal in his nose. Finally, perhaps after hundreds of thousands of steps, his right foot touched his left foot, and he fell head-on, falling on his face. He lay on the conveyor belt, and in an instant he was sent to the blade, and a shrill scream was heard. There was no need to describe the process in detail. In short, he was resurrected with blood and tears. What could he do? He collected his emotions, rallied himself, and continued to run. With a faster speed and a more stable pace, he continued to challenge and surpass the limits of his body. Previously, the speed of the conveyor belt was 7.71 meters per second. After increasing it to 7.72, he was pierced by thousands of arrows. Now, he had to try to maintain the speed above 7.73 so that he would not be pierced by the densely packed blade behind him. Lifting the leg 10,000 times allowed the muscle to form a memory. Lifting the leg 100,000 times allowed the muscle fibers to slowly evolve. It was like unlocking the gene lock of human beings. Lifting the leg 1,000,000 times allowed a person's body function to increase by 1,000th of its limit. Lifting the leg 10,000,000 times allowed a slightly talented person to stand on the stage of the professional arena. Lifting the leg 100,000,000 times was almost the limit of a human's life. But for Qin Guang, this might just be the first step in a long journey of 10,000 miles. Maybe it was 1,000,000,000 times? Or 10 billion times? He had no way to count it. He didn't even want to count the number of resurrections. The super shrunken version of the one-line Heavenly Cups training method was extremely simple and violent. It constantly increased the speed of the conveyor belt, and in the end, it even made Qin Guang persist in long-distance running at a speed faster than Bolt's 100-meter run. He couldn't keep up with the speed, and with a thumped sound, he slipped and fell. He wanted to slack off and slow down a little. Every desperate struggle seemed to end with thousands of arrows piercing through his heart. Fortunately, Qin Guang had rich experience in going to heaven. Anyway, every time he went to heaven, his eyes would open and close, and he would feel like a piece of pork on the chopping board. Someone would open countless bloody holes on his body like a rag, and he would feel like his body was hollowed out. Then he would endure it. Forget it, he shouldn't think about those things anymore. He quietly lay in the middle of Cloud City, looking at the clouds and the sky, thinking about the rest of his life. Lily would come over to ask about him from time to time. Are you dead? Are you completely dead? If you're not dead, then get up quickly. It's time to get out of here and continue running. Qin Guang comfortably turned around on the ground and asked, Lily, why do you think people keep running forward without stopping? If you continue to be crazy here, I'll skin you alive. Lily realized that she couldn't talk to him nicely. She had to teach him a lesson. As expected, Qin Guang quickly jumped up. Again, before he finished his sentence, he disappeared from the world in the cup again. He suddenly came back to his senses. The sky was still so blue, but the fatigue on his body was inexplicably swept away. The soil behind him emitted waves of warm air, and the sun in the sky was so hot that it made him sleepy. It was really a good time to take an afternoon nap. Not far behind his head, the hurried footsteps were getting closer and closer, accompanied by the smug and sinister sneer of the short man. Standard villain mode, hee. Run? Where do you think you're going? Die. On the helicopter far away, Jiang Yuanchao, the nun with the sword, and the beautiful woman in the flowery dress were just starting to show signs of fear. We're doomed this time. The binoculars in Jiang Yuanchao's hand fell to the ground. Needless to say, it meant that Qin Guang fell to the ground at this critical moment. He's finally at his limit. The sword-wielding nun hesitated to jump down from the helicopter, but she felt that she might not be able to run faster than a plane on the ground, and at this height, even a master of leather strength would most likely fall to his death. The beautiful woman in the flowery dress frowned. If he's really dead, faction leader Wen might go crazy. Jiang Yuanchao slapped his forehead in pain. What should we do now? Although there's a sniper on the helicopter, the distance is too far, and both parties are moving at high speed. There's really no way to shoot. Just as everyone was in despair and the two pursuers were getting carried away, Qin Guang suddenly jumped up from the ground and then shot forward like an arrow. What? Are you King kidding me? This was said by the nun with the sword. Even a monk was so shocked that she cursed. Oh my God, he's even faster than before. He's on steroids. The beautiful woman in the flowery dress also exclaimed. Jiang Yuanchao hurriedly looked down to find the binoculars. When he looked at Qin Guang again, he didn't look the least bit tired and looked like a wild rabbit playing in the field. This kid, is this the final radiance of the setting sun? The two assassins were also dumbfounded. Who can tell me? What the hell is going on? The short man felt like his outlook on life had collapsed. As an internal force warrior, he was already out of breath from exhaustion, but this guy just lay on the ground for a second and was full of energy again? You must have taken the wrong medicine. Chapter 666. At this moment, Chen Guang finally noticed the approaching helicopters and ran even more energetically. As expected of Uncle Jiang, he was much faster than he had imagined. After coming out of the heavenly Holy Grail, his body had already recovered to its peak state. Describing his legs as moving like the wind would be an understatement. It was a pity that these legs were not born on an antelope. He covered several meters with each step, stepping on soft fields, but his speed in a straight line was not inferior to the athletes in the 100-meter Olympics. The tall and short man chasing behind were already at the end of their tether, and with this, they could not catch up. The tall man's heart was beating like a drum. "Let's go, I really can't. I can't catch up." The short man clenched his teeth. "Go if you want to go. I must kill Chen Guang." Saying this, he took out 3 jade bottles from his pocket and shook them in his palm. The 3 small jade bottles were crushed by him, and 3 sparkling and translucent pills appeared in his palm. The tall man's pupils shrank. Strength pill. God explosion pill. Heaven demon pill. "Oh my God, what are you doing?" He shouted out 3 names. Among them, the strength pill was a special medicine from Thousand Flower Valley. It could stimulate a martial artist's potential, especially when they were exhausted from fighting with others. It could recover a large amount of inner force in a short period of time. The God Explosion Pill and Heaven Demon Pill were special medicines from Poison Sect. Among them, the God Explosion Pill could stimulate a martial artist's mind. It could stimulate a martial artist's mind when they were overdrawn, temporarily becoming excited. Its effect was similar to a stimulant, but the effect was more violent and direct. The Heaven Demon Pill got its name from the Lost Heaven Demon disintegration technique. It could stimulate one's body's strength crazily, at the cost of overdrawing one's life. It was a standard stimulant effect. There was a rumor among the low-level martial artists. It said that if the Heaven Demon Pill, Strength Pill, and God Explosion Pill were to be consumed at the same time, it would be terrifying. The tall man had never thought about this before. He only had the strength pill with him. Now he finally saw it with his own eyes. "I've wanted to run for a long time. I really don't want to die with you. You bastard." The tall man cursed and took out a bottle from his pocket. In the end, he still swallowed a rejuvenation pill and rushed forward. Of these 2 people, one was stubborn and crazy, the other was weak and had no opinions of his own. When put together, they really looked like a tall and short monk, a match made in heaven. "Good brother. We'll still be brothers in the next life." The short man rushed forward and said with a sigh. The tall guy almost turned around and ran away. "Who the hell wants an afterlife? I don't want to die today." Does he mean that he's going to die today? The side effects were so strong? I feel like my whole body is on fire. I have never been so powerful before. Every inch of my body is bursting with great power. I even feel like I am about to break through the shackles of bone force and embark on the cultivation of skin force. The short man ran faster and faster, seemingly closing the distance between him and Chen Guang. On the helicopter, the nun holding the sword and the beautiful woman were both shocked. "This guy is on drugs." The beautiful woman covered her mouth and said, "That's right, it's a strong drug." The nun holding the sword frowned. "We have to take a gamble." Jiang Yuanchao asked, "Bet on what?" The sword-wielding nun spoke again. "Mr. Jiang, please lend me your gun." Jiang Yuanchao didn't have time to think and asked the sniper next to him to borrow the gun. "Nun, do you really know how to use this thing?" The nun holding the sword was already sitting at the door with the huge gun resting on her shoulder. The nun holding the sword had become the nun holding the gun. The old nun leaned slightly to the side and pointed the black muzzle in the direction of Chen Guang and the tall and short assassin. Her robe flapped in the wind, but her hand holding the gun was as steady as iron. The nun placed one eye behind the scope and looked at Chen Guang and the tall and short assassin who were running in the field about 1,000 meters away. Hearing Jiang Yuanchao's question, she gave a disdainful and mysterious smile. "As the leader of the Thousand Despair sect, I may not be as good as Chen Guang in terms of darts, but I'm really good at using hidden weapons. Your gun looks complicated, but it's actually just 2 points and 1 line. When shooting, you have to take into account the speed of the bullet, wind speed, the speed of the helicopter, the speed of Qin Guang and the assassin behind him, gravity, wind resistance, and many other factors. That's all. Jiang Yuanchao gasped. No wonder you're the 1,000 despair sect's nun. You're really good. That, nun, you didn't open the safety. The gunman next to her couldn't help but ask. The nun blushed. I just need a little time to get used to it. After a short adjustment, the old nun raised her aura of a master again and aimed the gun at Qin Guang and the tall and short assassin. As Qin Guang ran, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Strange, why did he feel a sense of danger coming from the direction of the helicopter in front of him? That, nun, it's going to be okay, right? The beautiful woman suddenly felt uneasy. The nun snorted. Of course it's going to be okay. I'm aiming at Qin Guang right now, but the moment the bullet hits his position, it'll be the moment the pursuer behind him reaches his position. It's a sure hit. Bang! An explosive sound rang out from the gun as a bullet flew towards Qin Guang along with an ear-piercing sonic boom. Yes, she was aiming at Qin Guang, and the bullet was also flying toward Qin Guang. But what's going on? The bullet's flying speed isn't right. The nun exclaimed. Nun, didn't you see the description on the side? This is a new special bullet that came out yesterday. The bullet is flying 30% faster than ordinary bullets. The gunman next to her was shocked. I wanted to remind you earlier, but you looked really confident. I thought you knew what was going on. It's over. In the face of this situation, the beautiful woman next to her could only say such a sentence. In the distance, Qin Guang was running. Perhaps it was because of luck, or perhaps it was because of the blessings of the heavens, but he felt that something was amiss. Everything was amiss, and there was a cold sensation coming from his head. Could it be that the idiot on the helicopter wanted to help him shoot the idiot behind him, but the one who fired was also an idiot, so he accidentally shot the old man? No, at such a long distance, it could only be. This couldn't be called an accident. He would become a Buddha if he got close. He subconsciously lowered his head, and then he suddenly felt a burning sensation on the top of his head. Before he could figure out what was going on, he heard an ear-piercing sonic boom. He raised his hand to touch the top of his head, and there was a straight scar on his scalp from the terrible wind. Looking at his hand, it was already full of blood. God bless, only the scalp was injured, but not the bones. When the scar formed on his bald head, it would be a standard postmodern Mohican. I clearly have the heart of an ordinary teenager, but I always have to go down the road of Chunibyu under the torment of fate? Forget it, don't worry about it. One who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune later, and the hope of escaping from death is a little higher. Suddenly, he felt that the sound behind him had lessened. Qin Guang looked back while running, and he was happy. The bullet that he had just avoided had hit the thigh of the short man behind him. This old man was burning his life to burn when he suddenly suffered a heavy blow. His right leg was directly blown off from the base of his thigh. The place where his leg was broken was a black hole, as if it had been blown off alive. The power of the bullet just now was evident. Qin Guang gave a thumbs up in silence. So accurate, she must have deliberately flown over my head to hit the guy behind me. How daring of a skilled person. The people on the helicopter also realized that the nun with the sword was a blind cat that found a dead mouse. She actually succeeded in one shot. She's indeed a nun. Jiang Yuanchao praised her. The beautiful woman blushed, and she also praised her hypocritically. Sister, you're amazing. Needless to say, the gunners all looked at their colleague as if they were looking at a goddess. This distance, this moving target, us elite gunners don't even have the courage to aim, alright? Embarrassed by the compliments, the nun with the sword held on and cupped her hands. Thank you for letting me win. I don't deserve it. As she spoke, the helicopter covered the remaining distance of more than 1,000 meters at high speed. In about 10 seconds, it finally flew directly above Qin Guang's head and began to descend. Before the helicopter reached the ground, the nun with the sword and the beautiful woman jumped down together and landed beside Qin Guang when they were still 7 to 8 meters in the air. Qianju's sect's disciple greets Chief Qin. Hua Yi of Thousand Flower Valley. Xianxia and Wu Miaowan's master? Chen Guang quickly cupped his hands and greeted them. Greetings, seniors. Aya, you're finally here. I was scared to death. Those behind me are all crazy people. It's too scary. Oh right, which expert sniped us just now? That marksmanship is really good. This was Xianxia's master, who was rumored to hate men. Chen Guang decided to flatter this nun so that she would have a better first impression of him. I'm guessing it must be your doing, nun? To be able to shoot at such a distance and with such accuracy, I can't think of anyone else other than you. Chen Guang cupped his hands again and said sincerely. The sword-bearing nun blushed. She did not know how to respond to Chen Guang's words. Actually, this is all a coincidence. I almost blew your head off. Seeing that the sword-bearing nun was embarrassed, the beautiful woman quickly changed the topic. Chief Chen, you're too polite. Rest well. Leave the rest to us. The two of them did not hesitate. After a simple greeting to Chen Guang, they pounced on the two people behind him who were completely stunned. The short man had even forgotten the pain of his broken leg. Why are there two sect leaders with them? Why is that? The tall man's face was pale. Can we not care about this? What about your leg? What do we do now? The short man shook his head calmly. Actually, I'm not afraid at all. It's a pity that Chen Guang got away. Why are you so calm at a time like this? Why? Because I'm going to die. Before the short man could finish his sentence, his legs gave way and his eyes rolled back into his head. His heartbeat stopped just like that, and he didn't even bother to say anything. Even though he only had one broken leg, his blood flow was too great. It was like a spring that could not be stopped. He would not be able to live. Actually, when he discovered that he could not do anything, he did not want to live anymore. The tall man was dumbfounded. He had thought that the other had some great escape plan, but in the end, it was a heaven escape technique. All right, you win. Your escape technique is unsolvable, but I don't want to learn it. You ran away just like that, leaving me alone to face this cruel world. After a few breaths, a horsetail whisk landed on his shoulder. A sleeve silently wrapped around his neck. Kid, what's your name? Where are you from? Who are you with? Besides Ouyang Tianxing, who else are you friends with in the martial world? What is your sect? What's the name of this dead person? Tell me everything and I'll spare your life. The beautiful woman smiled sweetly. Although she was old, she still retained her charm. However, when her enchanting voice fell into the ears of the tall assassin, it was as terrifying as a death warrant. The sword master did not ask too many questions. She frowned and looked at the two of them. After a while, she said, they're just normal disciples of the Long Arm faction and Iron Mountain faction. They're no big shots. The beautiful woman lost interest. Sigh, so it turns out they're from a small faction that's even worse than us. Otherwise, why would they end up working for Ouyang Tianxing? Jiang Yuanchao came down from the rope ladder and asked with concern for Chen Guang, Little Chen, are you all right? Why are you running in the same place? Aren't you tired from running? Chen Guang shrugged. Sigh, this is nothing. I'm fine. What haven't I seen before? I'm used to running and I can't stop for a while. Why is Uncle Zhang's face red? It's not my face that's red, it's the blood in your eyes. Jiang Yuanchao shouted. Ambulance. Help. I need an ambulance. Don't try to talk me out of it. Oh my God, I'm disfigured. No, my beautiful tea egg. Jiang Yuanchao suddenly had the urge to strangle him to death when he saw how panicked he was. You're our chief instructor. You're the shame of the Chinese military. Tonight was supposed to be the signing ceremony and press conference for women, but because of Chen Guang's injury in the morning, the press conference was postponed. Jiang Yage and Jean Shiyue, who were recording a song in the UK, rushed back excitedly. However, when they heard from Jiang Yuanchao that Chen Guang was injured, they rushed to the special nursing home anxiously. Chen Guang lay comfortably in the spacious ward. He moved his body from time to time, feeling the explosive power in his legs and the comfortable feeling in his abdomen. He felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. However, his legs were still shaking violently from time to time. Fortunately, his bed was specially reinforced, or else his legs would have fallen apart. It was even harder to control than when he was listening to the leg-shaking song. In fact, the wound on his head had already stopped bleeding, and he would be fine even if he didn't lie in the hospital. The reason why he pretended to be injured was that he needed to get used to his legs, especially when he was being carried onto the helicopter on a stretcher. He even had to ask someone to fasten his legs with a bag. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control his eeless legs and would run off the helicopter. After lying in the hospital for the whole day, he finally managed to stop the side effects of his legs shaking. Yes, I finally don't have to run anymore. I can stop. He stretched himself, and the door of the ward was suddenly pushed open. Jiang Yage and Jin Shirui appeared at the door with pale faces. "Qin Guang, are you okay?" Jiang Yage was the first to run. Jin Shirui was the second to run with a panicked expression, but she ultimately restrained herself and didn't shout. Chen Guang immediately lay down. His head was tilted to one side, his lips were trembling, his eyes were blank, and his face was expressionless. He looked exactly like a patient with a severe concussion and was only one step away from losing his memory and becoming mentally retarded. Occasionally, there was a glimmer of desire in his eyes, but then it disappeared. He kept repeating one sentence. I can't, I need a big, full recovery." Jiang Yuanchao, the nun with a sword, and the beautiful woman in a flowery dress who were following behind panicked. His head was indeed injured by a bullet. His condition has worsened. Jiang Yuanchao touched his bald head, looking very experienced. Chapter 667. What does he mean by, on a large scale? Jiang Yuanchao leaned over to listen to Chen Guang for a long time but still couldn't understand what he was mumbling about. He scratched his head and mumbled to himself. He was considered fashionable among middle-aged people, but he still couldn't figure out the meaning of this new word in his head. In his impression, the term, on a large scale, was mostly used to describe laws and regulations. This young man was injured to this extent, yet he was still concerned about the country's laws. That's right, he must be considering the control of internal force users in the new situation. This must be the on a large scale he was talking about. What a dutiful and responsible director. At first, the sword-wielding nun and the gorgeous woman were also at a loss. They had no idea what Chen Guang was talking about. However, Chen Guang maintained a blank expression as he repeated it like a jammed recorder. Chen Guang was still mumbling, I can't take it anymore, I need, on a large scale, to be fully reborn. An extremely exciting thought emerged in the minds of the two leaders at the same time. Could this be the mnemonic of the painting manual? The two of them looked at each other and saw endless joy in each other's eyes. The more they thought about it, the more likely it was. When a person is in a state of complete absent-mindedness, what he subconsciously recited must be the most memorable thing in his mind. Both of them knew that Wenwen taught Chen Guang the painting manual. In the entire pugilistic world, the painting manual was a peerless skill that countless people coveted. It went without saying how excited and crazy an ordinary person like Chen Guang would be. After thinking about it, if he was really in a state of complete absent-mindedness, then what he recited in a state of unconsciousness was most likely the mnemonic of the painting manual. This was a chance, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The ears of the two leaders started prickling uncontrollably, afraid that they would miss out on every word that Chen Guang recited. They felt guilty for doing something bad in secret, but they really couldn't resist the temptation of the painting manual. Nourishing material. That's right, an outstanding martial artist, be it male or female, must be perfect in terms of yin and yang. What a broad and profound painting scroll, even the first 3 words were so profound. Damn, does this mean I have to make up for it while lying down? The 2 sect leader-level elders blushed slightly. They didn't expect the painting scroll to be this kind of dual cultivation method. It seemed that the more profound a martial art was, the more importance it placed on the harmony of yin and yang. The first 2 sentences of the scroll were all related to the nature of yin and yang. Enlightenment, continue to shine. He didn't understand. These 2 sentences were too profound. But it didn't matter. He would memorize these words, and when he returned, he would be able to decipher some of the mysteries. De Qi, this meant that if a martial artist wanted to reach the peak, they had to be intoxicated and immersed in it, right? It was reasonable and convincing. Overflowing blood, overflowing fire. So the painting scroll was a masculine cultivation technique? And it even involves the Tao of blood guidance? It was so unfathomable. No wonder sect leader Wen's moves were so fierce after he cultivated to the great scholar realm. Every move he made had the power to repel heroes. It wasn't without reason. The more the two sect leaders listened, the more excited they became. Just the first sentence of the scroll was enough to make them feel emotional. They even vaguely felt that they had gained something. The Wen clan's painting scroll really lived up to its name. What's next? You should continue. But after the two listened for a while, Chen Guang still mumbled the same few sentences. No matter how many times they listened, there was no difference. The two of them couldn't help but feel dejected. If nothing unexpected happened, he was probably really dizzy right now. He only knew how to repeat the first sentence. After all, everyone knew that the first sentence left the deepest impression. It was like the three-character classic. Everyone knew that the first two sentences were good at birth, but most people couldn't remember what the next sentence was. It was the same logic. They didn't know what the others were thinking, but Jin Shuriwei and Jiang Yage understood immediately. This guy usually looked serious, but after he fainted, his true nature was revealed. The two of them blushed and even peeked timidly at Jiang Yuanchao and the two sect leaders. Why do the three of them look excited too? It can't be. Abbess, you are a monk, please be more dignified. It was reasonable for the auntie in the flowery dress to be a little immodest. After all, he was so handsome. But why are you like this too, Dad, Uncle Jiang? He is hinting to your daughter and her best friend to have a big scene. But what should I do now? Turn a blind eye? It looked like he was seriously injured. It was heartbreaking. Jiang Yage subconsciously reached for Chen Guang's head and gently touched the bandaged head. Sigh, it's all my fault. I was overconfident. I should have aimed a little longer before shooting. You can't blame Abbess too much. After all, it was a critical situation. The assassin's strength increased too much after taking the forbidden drug, and Chen Guang was in danger. Although the process was thrilling, Abbess's amazing shot did help Chen Guang out of danger. Jiang Yuanchao sighed and comforted her. I'm ashamed. The nun's face became redder. She hit the target by accident. God bless her. In fact, Chen Guang really wanted to jump out of bed and tell the three annoying old light bulbs to stay where they were. Why are they so self-conscious? You guys should have some self-awareness. Speaking of which, Jiang Yage, can you stop touching me? Your action is making me feel embarrassed, okay? They dilly-dallied in the ward for a while. An old expert from the sanatorium came to check on him. Chen Guang, who was pretending to be sick, almost gave himself away. Fortunately, his world-class acting skills saved him again. Sigh, Director Chen's illness is very strange and serious. He did a CT scan and an electroencephalogram, and there was nothing unusual. How did he become like this when he was just lying down? I can't say for sure. The expert had traveled extensively and had seen many special illnesses, but he still had a headache. Can he still wake up? Jiang Yuanchao was worried. He stole a glance at Jin Shuriwei and felt sorry for his niece. The Yanjing military's reaction was a little slow. If they had arrived 10 minutes earlier, Chen Guang wouldn't have encountered this. Moreover, Chen Guang's identity was extraordinary. Now that the Special Affairs Bureau had just been destroyed, it was time for the Guangdong General Administration to stand up and lead the new situation. But the director, who was the backbone, was seriously injured and had fallen into a coma. If sect leader when asked about it, it would be difficult to explain and affect the cooperation between the two parties. The consequences would be dire. The military drill incident made the Wuxia government officials have a deeper understanding of the power of the Wen family in the martial arts world. Without the support of the Wen family, a simple matter would become even more complicated. The old expert let out a long sigh. The human brain is the most complicated. After suffering a serious injury, If there are no obvious signs of blood vessels bursting, it's really not something that can be explained in a few words. You see, in Korean dramas, it's not impossible for someone to lose their memory after being hit by a tennis ball while walking. Chief Chen's situation is also very likely. As for whether he can pull through or not, it still depends on his own willpower and luck, right? Is that so? The people in the ward sighed again, full of helplessness. After a while, Jiang Yuanchao and the two leaders still had important matters to attend to, so they finally left with the old expert. Jiang Yage and Jin Shuiwei originally came back to attend the press conference, but now that the press conference was postponed, they had nothing else to do, and each had their own guilty conscience, so they stayed behind. When everyone left, Jin Shuiwei tentatively said, "Could it be that a large scale can really wake him up?" Jiang Yage's eyes darted around. "Based on my understanding of him, it might really be possible. Sister Shuiwei, think about it. When a man sees a large scale, his blood flow will accelerate. Maybe his blood will rush to his head, and it will open up some suppressed nerves in his brain. Also, didn't the expert just say that whether or not he can pull through depends on his willpower?" Jin Shuiwei's eyes lit up. "Solomon, you mean that a large scale can stimulate his willpower?" Jiang Yage nodded. "That's right." Jin Shuiwei blushed. "But I'm a little embarrassed about it." Jiang Yage blushed. I have no problem with it. In fact, I've sent him so many of them before." Jin Shuiwei rolled her eyes inwardly, thinking, "Solomon, you're really daring." On the surface, her relationship with him was closer, and she was his seemingly fake girlfriend. But in private, the two of them had actually developed to this extent. "You guys are moving so fast. I'm a little envious and jealous of you in my heart." But Jiang Yage and Jin Shuiwei are good sisters who have been together since they were young. If it were someone else, she would be so jealous. Jiang Yage, on the other hand, was embarrassed. She shook Jin Shuiwei's arm. "Sister Shuiwei, once I make up my mind, I have a little bit of courage." "This isn't called a little bit of courage, it's called audacity." Jin Shuiwei didn't say what she wanted to say. If Chen Guang isn't such a reliable person, and you send him a large scale, what if he sells it? It's possible to sell it for millions. But how could she say such a thing? If she had Jiang Yage's courage, she would have done such a thing a long time ago, right? But then again, between the two of them, she was also the one who confessed to Chen Guang first. Thinking about it carefully, she was the one who came later and interfered. She really didn't have the face to teach Jiang Yage a lesson. Seeing the two of them talking, Jin Shuiwei began to feel disappointed again. Jiang Yage patted her on the shoulder. "Sister Shuiwei, don't be depressed. We agreed on a fair competition. I won't snatch it from you first. Let's try it together today?" Jin Shuiwei shook her head fiercely. "Oh no. Then I won't care about you. Look at his silly look now. We're treating a patient and saving a life." Jin Shuiwei was a little tempted, but when she thought of taking a large-scale photo of him in front of the camera, she was too shy. In the end, she still couldn't muster up the courage. "Let's do this." Jiang Yage took Chen Guang's phone from his bedside and handed it to Jin Shuiwei. "Sister Shuiwei, I'll go to the toilet to take a photo. Look at him now, he can't hold the phone. Later, I'll take a photo and send it to him. You can put one photo in front of his eyes. As for the large scale, I'm right here. I can take as many as you want. Is that so?" Jin Shuiwei blushed to her ears. Her face was a little hot, but thinking about it carefully, it seemed to be the best arrangement. Jiang Yage didn't give her much time to hesitate. She turned around and went to the ICU's toilet. Jin Shuiwei shyly sat on Chen Guang's bedside. She opened WeChat and opened Jiang Yage's name. She was so nervous that she couldn't tell north from south. In her entire 20 years of life, this was a terrifying scene that she had never thought of. If a fortune teller told her that in the future, she would take the phone and show the man she liked her good sister's hot and fresh photos, Jin Shuiwei believed that she would tell this matter to her grandfather and send this shameless guy to heaven. That's right, what kind of scale was considered large? Jin Shuiwei shamelessly flipped through Chen Guang and Jiang Yage's chat history. Unfortunately, she didn't see a single photo. They were all deleted by the kind-hearted young man Chen Guang. Not a single photo was left. All that was left were some shameless text conversations between the two. Dear Guang Guang, are you done? Guang Guang, does my body look good? Guang Guang, do you want to see more? So embarrassing, so embarrassing. Thanks. That's enough. My physique can't keep up. Ever since I added you as a friend, my nutrition has been getting worse day by day. You need the Nutrition Express that I endorse. It's sticky, white, thick, and high in protein. I guarantee that one bottle of it will replenish your blood. I keep feeling that something is wrong. These chat records made Jin Shirue blush. She then thought of what she had chatted with Chen Guang. It was like a polite greeting between strangers. It was impossible for her to say that she wasn't envious. However, she felt that she couldn't be as shameless as Jiang Yage even if she practiced for a lifetime. If such a day really came, it would probably be me lying on the bed obediently and not daring to move, right? Perhaps I wouldn't even have the courage to look at him? Rustling sounds came from the bathroom. It was obvious that Jiang Yage had started to take off her clothes. Jin Shirue was shocked. What a big scale. Just taking a picture from the neckline was enough. When we were filming, we didn't even wear suspenders. Chen Guang lay quietly on the hospital bed. His world-class acting skills were brought to the extreme. He still looked like a repeater, but there was no need to mention the sour feeling in his heart. Originally, he only wanted to play with Jiang Yage for fun. He didn't expect that it would unknowingly become so serious. The one taking the picture was Jiang Yage, and Jin Shirue was holding the phone in front of him. Just thinking about it made him feel especially emotional. Not good. My power is going to go out of control. If I have a reaction now, won't I be exposed? How can such an unforgivable mistake appear on me, the world-class acting master? So, just as he was letting his imagination run wild, the first picture appeared in front of Jin Shirue. She screamed and covered her mouth. This first picture was already so scary. In the WeChat, it was Jiang Yage's white as jade upper body. It was a close-up shot. The lines and small particles were clearly visible. It was tall and straight without any burdens. Chapter 668. Jin Shirue had been paying attention to Chen Guang. It was strange that his eyes were becoming more and more empty and unfocused. Could it be that the big scale was useless? Wait a minute. He was speaking again. His lines were different from before. Chen Guang's voice sounded very soft and weak, but the shape of the first word was completely different from before. Jin Shirue was overjoyed. It was indeed effective. Even his words were different. She moved her ear closer. Chen Guang's voice was a little soft and weak. Swing, too much, I can't see clearly. Jin Shirue was stunned. Only then did she realize that her hands were shaking as if they were fitted with a small electric motor. Not to mention the dazed Chen Guang couldn't see clearly, even she couldn't see clearly. How awkward. At this moment, Jiang Yage popped her head out again. Sister Shirue, is it useful? How could Jin Shirue admit that it was her mistake? She could only say with a red face and a trembling voice, it's useful, it's useful. His words are different. Jiang Yage was overjoyed. If not for the fact that she was naked, she would have jumped out. What did he say again? Swang yellow to yellow. Jin Shirue lied. If Jiang Yage knew that she didn't even see her painstaking efforts clearly, she would definitely be sad. Jiang Yage chuckled. He actually dares to despise me? That's not right. He wasn't like this in the past. Jin Shirue felt guilty and quickly waved her hand. It's fine, it's fine. He's not in a good state right now. Jiang Yage nodded. That's true. There's no rush. I'll help him recover in a few minutes. With that, she retreated and closed the door, continuing to rummage through the room. This time, Jin Shirue gritted her teeth. Since one hand was shaking badly, she used her left hand to pinch her right wrist. Both elbows were on the bed, and she leaned over to place the phone in front of Chen Guang's eyes. Although it was still awkward and nervous, The effect was immediate. Her hand stopped shaking. As Chen Guang's lifeless eyes gradually focused on the screen of Popcorn 5 Plus, he widened his eyes even further. Thank you for making such a conscientious product. The effect was really great. The old man's trust in your company was not in vain. Now that he is so rich, he didn't jump into the fruit phone pit and is still a loyal customer of your 1,000 yuan phone. Su Wang, you are a conscientious entrepreneur. Let's talk about the endorsement later. I'll give you a 5% discount. As long as you don't copy Xiaomi and write double stems in the advertisement, everything will be fine. This picture was as perfect as the reflection of the lake. The narrow space in the bathroom made the light from the headlights exceptionally bright. It made the picture clear in all directions and added a different glow to Jiang Yage's perfect skin. This was truly too beautiful to behold. Chen Guang did not have double stems, let alone the female artist with the surname Lu. But at this time, his pile driver should be moving. This was a completely different feeling from hiding in his room and playing with his phone while looking at the pictures sent by Jiang Yage. It was dusk, and the afterglow of the setting sun shone on Jin Shiyue's back. It made this famous leader of the Jade Lady sect look so holy, but what she was doing now was so strange. The reason for all this was because he had a sudden burst of playfulness and wanted to play a joke on everyone. Now it seemed that the joke was a little too big. Jin Shiyue's attention was mostly on Chen Guang's eyes. Seeing that his eyes finally focused, she was overjoyed. It was really effective. Under Chen Guang's reluctance, Jin Shiyue moved the first picture back to the small picture, but immediately put up the second one. The range of this picture was much smaller than the previous one. Looking at it, it was the scenery of the north. It was a vast expanse of white snow. In the middle of it, there was a pink volcano. Although it was just a picture of a still life, it gave people the feeling that the volcano was alive. Alright, it was said so elegantly. In fact, this picture was just a very indecent selfie, but it gave the modern master of selfie photography, Comrade Jiang Yage, a rich artistic feeling. If it wasn't for the fact that he was pretending to be sick, Chen Guang really wanted to give Jiang Yage a thumbs up. Seeing that his eyes were getting brighter and that he was no longer chanting incantations, Jin Shiyue's excitement gradually overwhelmed her shyness. It was really effective. There was hope. Thank the heavens, thank the heavens. Actually, this was what Chen Guang wanted to say. Jiang Yage poked her head out again. Is it effective, Sister Shiyue? Jin Shiyue's face was red. It was unknown whether it was because of excitement or shyness, but she nodded. It's effective, it's effective. Hurry up and send more. Jiang Yage also looked very excited. No problem. The pile driver silently became more and more ferocious. The third picture was taken from the side of the thigh, and it was full of artistic feeling. She even took pictures of this place. When Jin Shiyue looked at it herself, her eyes widened. She was shocked by Jiang Yage's terrifying courage and shamelessness. This was a talent, born with it, and ordinary people couldn't learn it. She asked herself, was she envious of the relationship between Jiang Yage and Chen Guang? Of course she was envious. But could she do it? She couldn't do it in her entire life. It's impossible, I can't do it. As she shook her head, she silently clamped her legs together. She felt that she was probably infected, and doing this kind of thing gradually gave her a strange feeling. Why am I so shameless? At this moment, Chen Guang was feeling anxious in his heart. Big sis, don't just look at me. The real patient is lying here. Don't you know that I'm almost out of breath from your breathing? How terrifying must it be to have this kind of power? I'm so anxious, I really want to see it. Strange, why did I unknowingly stiffen my neck? Chen Guang raised his head slightly, his eyes drifting to the phone, but because the angle was too big and because of the reflection of the setting sun, he really couldn't see it clearly, and he was burning with anxiety. Finally, Jin Shiyue came back to her senses. Jiang Yage was about to take another picture, and she had to quickly give it to Chen Guang. When she raised her head, Chen Guang quickly put his head back on the pillow and turned into a zombie again. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? I feel like I'm trapped in a cocoon. When can I turn into a butterfly? I want to fly to the sky and see the outside world. Jin Shirue was shocked. Her condition had worsened again, and it was all her fault. Restore blood, quickly restore blood. The phone was placed in front of him again, and Qin Guang was still quietly looking at it. At this moment, he was like a fragile baby, lying on the hospital bed, greedily absorbing the energy that Jiang Yage transmitted through the air. He didn't know if he could restore blood, but the temperature of his blood had risen, and the flow rate had also increased. Sister Shirue, how is it? Jiang Yage asked again. Jin Shirue nodded repeatedly. Very good, very good. He even started to talk about philosophy just now, and his ability to organize words has recovered. Then I'm going to start for real. That was just a warm-up exercise. Jiang Yage called out and then shrunk back. Jin Shirue felt that her outlook on life had received a terrible blow. This was just an appetizer? Do you usually want to overturn the heavens? In fact, Jin Shirue also overestimated Jiang Yage. Usually, although she was bold, she wasn't so shameless. Sometimes she was still quite bashful, but every time it was the little devil in her heart that rubbed the little angel on the ground, and every time she struggled, she would activate her devil mode. Of course, this was also the responsibility of Qin Guang's connivance and seduction. After all, he wasn't a saint who could control himself. Today's change was completely due to the sense of mission of saving a life, which was better than building a 7-storied pagoda. It added infinite motivation to Jiang Yage, and changed from wretched to righteous. This mentality was completely new. After a while, the appetizer was over and the main course finally appeared. As the saying goes, in the peach blossom valley, in the peach blossom stream, peach blossom butterflies dance on the peach blossom branches, Chen Lang lies drunk on the white bed, and the river tide blows on his face. Looking at this terrible scene, Jin Shirue's breathing almost stopped. This was too scary. What was wrong with this world? Although Solomon was bold in the past, it had never been like this. My God. How can you shoot like this? Can love really change a person like this? Did it completely open another layer of attributes in her body? But thinking about it carefully, it seemed that she wasn't much better, the pot calling the kettle black. From the moment when she took the initiative to pretend to be Qin Guang's girlfriend, Jin Shirue knew that she was also no longer the Jin Shirue of the past. The change happened to both of them at the same time, but they went in different directions, but their goals seemed to be the same. They both wanted to thoroughly obtain Qin Guang's heart. Perhaps the change in her body was more serious. Solomon just opened up her bold and thick-skinned temperament and deepened it, while she showed signs of blackening. Fortunately, now that the two sisters had talked it out, they wouldn't do anything shameful in the future. Jin Shirue let her imagination run wild while sending the mobile phone to Qin Guang's eyes. Qin Guang was shocked by the picture in front of him. In the mobile phone was Jiang Yage's strongest prehistoric scale, but next to her was Jin Shirue's face and ears flushed with shame and indignation. She didn't dare to look at his side face. This was his left and right hand. This was Jin Shirue and Jiang Yage. In this situation, more than 1 billion people in the country, no, billions of people in the world couldn't even dream of this, right? Yes, that's right, from now on, I am the ultimate winner in life. A tearing sound came from the quilt, and a pair of CK underwear worth 120 yuan came to an end. At this time, the message on the mobile phone came again. Jin Shirue didn't dare to look at it carefully. She directly opened it and placed it in front of Qin Guang. Strange, there was something wrong with this photo. The hair was slightly thicker than before, and it was more fleshy. There was a very playful mole on the side of the thigh, and the background was also wrong. It wasn't a bathroom, but a bed. She could see Cherry Morocco's bedsheet next to it. What the hell? Did I send it wrong? Someone else's? I didn't expect you to be like this, Jiang Yage. You are actually a female driver. Why did you go online to find other people's resources to learn posture? Speaking of which, the effect of this photo was quite good. It was a high-definition picture of the ancient Roman infantry, and it was a close-up. Jin Shirue saw a hint of doubt in Qin Guang's eyes. She was puzzled, and she mustered up the courage to turn the mobile phone screen back to take a look. Then she almost fell to the ground. Her breathing was completely chaotic, and her chest was beating like a drum. Her heart felt like it was about to jump out of her throat. Crazy, completely crazy. His whole person had gone crazy. This damn girl. When did she secretly take a photo of me? Bastard. That's right, it was yesterday. Yesterday, we slept on the bed with this bedsheet. Jin Shiyue covered her face. She was so shy that she couldn't help herself. She was framed. But why am I not really angry, but instead secretly happy in my heart? It's over, this time it's all over. I'm going to be dragged into the ditch by this damn girl. At this time, Jiang Yage poked her head out and smirked at Jin Shiyue. Sister Shiyue, I said it before. Be fair, be fair. I have it, you also have it. Who wants it? Sister Shiyue, don't quibble. It's true. Your face is full of peach blossoms. Isn't that all because of you? I don't care. Anyway, now you are the same as me. In the future, don't laugh at me for being bold and shameless. You have also been seen by him. Chen Guang, whose brain was in a paste and didn't know what was going on, listened to the conversation between the two. How could he not understand that the photo was of Jin Shiyue? A mouthful of saliva was choked into his trachea. A mouthful of old blood was blocked in his heart. He almost couldn't catch his breath. Cough, cough, cough. In this situation, even the acting skills of the cosmos couldn't hold on. Chen Guang coughed nonstop. It's working. It's working. Jiang Yage's eyes lit up like two headlights. Jin Shiyue still hasn't recovered from the blow just now. She was awakened by Chen Guang. She subconsciously wanted to take the phone away. This is too shameful. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Chen Guang's mind. A person's potential is really endless. Many years later, if he could recall what he did today, he would also be proud of his amazing wit. He quickly grabbed Jin Shiyue's hand. His expression instantly changed. His acting skills completely broke out in an instant. His expression was painful and full of expectation. His eyes were like a prisoner who had been locked in a dungeon for decades and saw the sun for the first time in many years. His eyes were crazy and scorching. His nose was heavy and rough. He was a little weak and confused. It was more like he was struggling in a drunken state. His eyes seemed to be nailed to the phone. It was as if taking it away for a second would make him want to die in pain. Don't. Everything was just as the old expert had said. His willpower had exploded. It seemed that he really wanted to use his willpower to overcome the shackles on his head. He wanted to break through the cage bravely and come back to life. Jin Shiyue was moved to tears. Chen Guang was secretly crying. It's not easy. I actually succeeded. I actually deceived the eyes of two acting masters. Brother's acting skills were not learned in vain. On Jin Shiyue's side, although she was ashamed and resentful, seeing that Chen Guang was finally about to wake up and recover, she thought that Solomon's judgment was right. This could really stimulate his potential. Let him defeat the disease. I have to hold on. I can't let myself and Solomon fail on the verge of success. Chen Guang, come on. Wait for us. We will definitely save you. Chapter 669. Jin Shiyue's heart was tangled and complicated. She hoped that Jiang Yage would show her real skills as soon as possible, so that she could be free. After all, Chen Guang, this bad guy, was staring at her photo. You bastard, don't tell me you want to see every inch of me clearly? Do you want to embarrass me to death? But she didn't know why, but Jin Shiyue was a little reluctant. She hoped that Jiang Yage would be a little slower. She couldn't tell the reason. Maybe even if she knew, she didn't want to admit it. In fact, this was good. Awkward, painful, shy, and proud. It turned out that this kind of feeling was so unique. No wonder Solomon had this kind of hobby. When a person's shyness reached the extreme, would it really break through a certain boundary in his heart? Could it be that I'm hiding a little devil like Solomon in my bones? Fortunately, this guy was in a silly state now. Maybe he didn't know that he was looking at my photo, right? Thinking of this, Jin Shiyue's feelings in her heart became more complicated. There was a kind of pleasure of secretly doing bad things, but there was also such a lingering regret. Poor Jin Shiriyue. She didn't know that Qin Guang was completely awake at this time and knew everything. She couldn't say whether it was lucky or unlucky. If she knew that Qin Guang knew, maybe she wouldn't have persisted at all. It was also because she didn't know that Qin Guang knew that she had the courage to put her most private side in front of Qin Guang without reservation. It was a mouthful, but it was the truth. On the other hand, Qin Guang quietly watched as if he was intoxicated. Perhaps at this moment he no longer needed any acting skills, since he looked like a natural fool at this moment. Finally, about 5 or 6 minutes later, Jiang Ye's side was finished. A new storm had appeared. What appeared on the mobile phone was a simple dynamic video. This time, Jiang Ye had even upgraded her carrier. In order to display her true skills without holding back, Jiang Ye was going all out. Jin Shiriyue reluctantly took back her phone and couldn't help but look at the photo on it. She was in a daze for more than 10 seconds before she slowly came back to her senses. Then, with even more reluctance, she shrunk the photo and clicked on the animated video sent by Jiang Ye. The content was really indescribable. When Jin Shiriyue saw it, she almost wanted to throw her phone away and call the police. Jiang Ye didn't move for a long time. She was probably paralyzed in the washroom. Chen Guang was burning with anxiety. Hurry up. This is your best friend who grew up with you. Why are you staring at her in a daze? What else can you do? Hurry up and give it to me. Finally, Jin Shiriyue came back to her senses. She trembled as she handed the phone to Qin Guang. Then, with a shake of her fingers, she clicked on the video. It was the largest in history, unprecedented. It had sound and it could move. But I'm a fan of both of you. Can you give me your autograph? Don't be angry. When Mr. Chen was first admitted to the hospital, the injury on his head was really scary. I'm just afraid that his condition will worsen. Jin Shiriyue and Jiang Ye were too embarrassed to tell the nurse what they were doing with Qin Guang just now. They blushed and stuttered, not knowing what to do. Fortunately, the nurse quickly took out a pen and paper from her pocket. The two of them calmed down a little when they borrowed the autograph. However, when they heard from the nurse that Qin Guang was seriously injured, they felt even more heartbroken. The nurse pressed Qin Guang down and changed the dressing on his head. She asked, "Mr. Qin, are you feeling better?" Qin Guang smiled faintly, appearing very cultured. Then, he silently bent his knees and used his knees to push the blanket up high to cover his tent of shame. "Thank you, Miss Nurse. I'm much better. My whole spirit has been lifted." Seeing that he really said a clear sentence, Jin Shiriyue and Jiang Ye clenched their hands and looked at him excitedly. "Thank God it really worked." "Oh right, I don't know what happened just now. In a daze, it seems like a lot of things happened, but I just can't remember them." Chen Guang deliberately made a very painful expression and subconsciously wanted to rub his head. The beautiful nurse slapped his palm. "Why are you touching? Aren't you afraid that your wound will split open? You'd better behave yourself." "Oh, okay." Chen Guang shrank back into the blanket, feeling wronged. Jin Shiriyue and Jiang Ye looked at him from the side. Seeing that he really didn't remember anything, Jiang Ye didn't have any special feelings. To her, this was as common as eating and drinking. However, Jin Shiriyue felt exceptionally regretful. "Oh right, where's my phone?" Chen Guang turned his head and looked around. Jin Shiriyue took out her phone shyly. She hadn't had the time to delete the photo just now. However, Chen Guang took the phone anxiously. Why did it go to Shiriyue's place?" "Sai, let's take a look at Weibo. We were supposed to be at the press conference, but it was postponed because of me. I'm guessing that the internet is full of people scolding me. Big bearded uncle thinks too highly of me. Am I not just a second male lead? There's no need to postpone the whole press conference just because of me. No, I feel like I'm going to be flamed badly. I have to go online and see what's going on." Seeing that he was talking about business again, Jin Shiriyue and Jiang Ye were completely sure that he really didn't remember anything. Jiang Ye hurriedly waved her hand and wanted to snatch the phone back. "It's fine. Don't look at it. It doesn't matter. People are afraid of being famous as pigs are afraid of being fat. How can you control the flaming words on the internet? Don't look at it. Just do your own thing. Chen Guang hid the phone under the blanket. Actually, he had an ulterior motive. He just didn't want them to delete the old man's real stuff. It's not like today is the first time you've met me. Don't you know how big of a heart I have? What can a mere flaming word do? I myself am the #1 flaming word in the pugilistic world, alright? Actually, his situation was quite awkward and delicate. How could the strongest pile driver in history be stopped just because he said so? It was still standing strong now. However, on the surface, he had to act like a proper person. However, he held on. If it wasn't for the fact that the Popcorn 5 Plus almost smashed into the pile driver in the process of hiding the phone, he would have almost fooled himself. It's better if you don't look at Weibo. Really, it's quite boring. The people on the internet are all spouting nonsense. They don't understand you, so they talk nonsense on the internet all day long. However, real works are more useful than anything else. No matter what, this time we will definitely help you come up with a good piece of work. Jin Shuiwei also sat down and comforted him gently. Seeing how nervous the two of them were, Chen Guang's heart skipped a beat. F***ck, it can't be that I'm really being scolded badly, right? This was not good news at all. I came to Beijing for fame, and it has to be a good reputation. Otherwise, how can I dig out faith from other people's brains? If everyone hates me, who will worship me? He started to panic, but he refused to admit defeat. He quietly returned the phone to the desktop, took it out, opened Weibo, and smiled amiably. Sigh, you guys have underestimated me. The two of you have really underestimated me. Now I'll let you guys see my big heart. I've seen many storms and waves. I was scolded badly a few days ago, but didn't I pull through? How can such a small matter be? F***ck, these bastards. The nurse panicked again. I told you not to move, the wound is going to explode. Chen Guang pointed at the phone with a trembling finger. He was extremely angry. You can't blame me for this. These bastards are too King vicious with their words. Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yage looked at each other. Sigh, I told you not to look at it. What can I do if I can't persuade you? What happened to your big heart? Did I let you eat it? Chapter 670. Speaking of the movie Women, the two of them were quite embarrassed. According to Big Beard Deng's original idea, Chen Guang was indeed the second male lead and was not that important. But during this period of time, Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yiling had blindly changed the script and added a lot of scenes for Chen Guang, but the more they changed, the better it was. Jin Shuiwei originally only had a small cameo, but she really changed nearly 10 minutes of scenes for herself. The first male lead's first love, with a passionate scene. It was originally a taboo for an actor to change the script, but the two women's own film company was also one of the investors of the film, so their attitude could not be ignored. The two of them were also friends with Big Beard Deng. Now, Big Beard Deng attached great importance to the two's opinions. After reading the script, he was shocked and had an explosion of inspiration. He simply cooperated with the scriptwriter and made a series of changes. The changes were even more explosive than Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yiling's changes. Chen Guang, the second male lead, became the first male lead. This kind of thing was strange, but it was really not rare in the film and television industry. At least this was a change at the level of the script. It was said that there was once a male artist who finished all his scenes under the contract of the first male lead. He was waiting for the reputation and the box office to double. After waiting for a year for the movie to be released, he found out that he was forced to become the second male lead by the post-production editing. The name of the movie was changed from Escorted to Heaven to Blind Tomb. That was really tragic. In a good circle, the senior became the green leaves of the young fresh meat and was set off as old cured meat. The supposed male lead became a stepping stone for others to step on his head. He was so angry that he vomited blood and did not have a place to reason with. In contrast, The matter of Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yage changing the script was not a problem at all. Therefore, after the new version of the script was released, Chen Guang became the first male lead without even knowing it himself. At first, Big Beard Deng was worried that this would cause too much pressure on Chen Guang and did not know if he would be willing to take it. Big Beard was actually quite worried about whether his acting skills could hold up. He had planned to call Chen Guang himself to ask. But the investors, Grace Song and Jin Shuiwei, patted their chests loudly. Chen Guang sighed, "We'll handle it, he'll definitely take it." As for his acting, what was there to be afraid of? Aren't you Big Beard Deng here? Big Beard, you have to be confident. You are the Big Beard Deng Xiaojing, who is the best at training actors. Although there were many twists and turns during the filming of Tears Never End for Rivers and Mountains, didn't he perform well in the end? Besides, how many little fresh meats really had acting skills? Even if Chen Guang wasn't good enough, based on his performance in Tears Never End for Rivers and Mountains, not many male idols could catch up to him, right? At most, there would be a few more NGs, the shooting time would be prolonged, and the shooting cost would be raised. It didn't matter, they could afford to lose money. Big Beard Deng was helpless because of these two little empresses. In addition, he also liked the new script, so the matter was quietly settled. It was not until the signing ceremony and press conference was about to be held in the next 2 days that it was announced to create momentum. The momentum was created, and the situation was still under control. But today, or perhaps at this time, because Chen Guang suddenly couldn't be present, the time of the press conference was suddenly changed, and it suddenly exploded. Before, Chen Guang's injury was a state secret. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Big Beard Deng learned the news and hurriedly announced to the public that the press conference would be postponed. It was too late and too sudden. Now, the public opinion completely exploded. He was not a professional actor. No, perhaps he could not even be considered a professional artist. He was just a fresh internet celebrity who had never learned how to perform and had never had more than 30 seconds of screen time. However, he had debuted as the male lead of a major production directed by a famous director like Big Beard Deng. What right did he have? Even if you have connections, you can't mess around like this. Do you know how to act in a movie? Even if you acted well in Tears for a Country's Rivers Will Run Dry, before, do you understand how much distance there is between a minor character without any lines and the male lead? Even if you have money to squander, you should at least act in a small budget, or even go to the Chinese Academy of Drama or Beijing Film Academy to further your studies. You're playing so big, normal people's emotions and physiology won't be able to accept it, okay? Do you want us to walk into the cinema standing and crawl out vomiting? This was the first hot topic. It was very controversial and could cause public opinion to rise to the sky in minutes. Not to mention ordinary fans and film critics, even people in the industry couldn't stand it anymore. They felt that Big Beard Deng had gone crazy. Jin Shuiwei had also gone crazy. In order to support her boyfriend, she really had no bottom line. Needless to say, there were even fans who started spontaneously boycotting Chen Guang and the movie on Weibo. His right-hand man's fans, who had just recovered from Jin Shuiwei's confession, were also furious. They felt that this shameful man was going to destroy their idol. For a famous actor to star in a bad movie that was completely destroyed at the box office was definitely a heavy blow to his or her career. For example, some domestic female celebrities were even labeled as the queen of bad movies after appearing in many bad movies. Now, only die-hard fans who didn't know the truth or were numb to the truth would support their movies. Even the Oscar winner Nicolas Cage ruined his or her reputation because he took on bad movies without restraint. Although his right-hand man was considered a veteran actor in the industry, his experience was far from Nicolas Cage's. Even an Oscar-winning actor could get away with it, so his right-hand man wasn't in a good situation either. Not only was Chen Guang a burden to their goddess in life, he even extended his claws to their goddess's career. This was intolerable. Curse the shameless be asterisk starred to death. Even if you're an almighty Superman, even if you're very cool in other aspects, acting in movies is completely different from what you did in the past, okay? Don't insult the performing arts. Those who act well are called performing artists. Those who don't have acting skills can barely be a small celebrity. At the very least, they can be called a little fresh meat in the entertainment circle. What are you? You're just an internet celebrity and you've only been famous for a few months. Letting someone like you act in Big Beard Deng's blockbuster and be the male lead, you're insulting the Chinese film industry just because you have money and connections. Insulting all movie fans. Insulting all the people in the film industry. It had already been like this on the internet for the past 2 days, but Jin Shuriwei and Jiang Mian had secretly done it behind Qin Guang's back. This situation was also caused by the two women's overplay. Coupled with the fact that they stood him up at the press conference tonight, the situation had completely changed. The other main producers had already released the news on their Weibo. Jin Shuriwei and Jiang Yage had also returned to the country early in the morning to help promote the movie. But here came the problem. Although Big Beard Deng's announcement did not explain the reason for the delay, there were no updates on Qin Guang's Weibo for the past 2 days. The matter was self-evident. Brother Almighty was acting cool, Brother Almighty was acting like a big shot. He wasn't coming today. So the agreed time was changed. The entire production crew is waiting for you, and you actually dare to play around? Everyone else had spared no effort to help promote the movie on their social media, but you, the male lead who had appeared out of nowhere, didn't say anything at all? Why are you so arrogant? So the current situation on the internet was like the second power of an explosion. Those vicious words could even make Qin Guang angry. Even with his thick skin, he could not help but roll his eyes. It was too numerous to list. Calm down, calm down. You've just been injured, you can't be so emotional. The nurse was anxious. Qin Guang put his phone in front of her. You can't blame me for this. Look at what these scumbags are saying. The nurse glanced at it. Damn it. What a beast. But I didn't do it on purpose. As she spoke, it turned out that she could not control the strength of her bandaged hand due to her emotional outburst. Qin Guang grinned. It's fine, it's fine. The pain on my head is not as bad as the bitterness in my heart. He quietly stuffed his phone under the blanket and let the nurse adjust his bandage. Then he lay down silently and yawned. Sigh, he was seriously injured. Half of it was acting, and the other half was real. In the past, it did not matter if he was scolded by others because he knew that others were stupid and he could turn the tables and slap them in the face. But this time, what these people said made sense. He almost believed it himself. If it wasn't for the fact that he had already mastered the most world-class acting skills in history in the world in a cup, and that his acting skills were still a burden, he probably would have just given up. He was not afraid of those who did not know the ropes, but he was afraid of being scolded by those who knew the ropes. It was really painful. Seeing him like this, Jin Shuriwei and Jiang Yage looked at each other. They wanted to comfort him, but the two women felt a little regretful. At that time, they were hot-headed and only wanted to add scenes for themselves and him, but they did not consider the difficulties it would be for him. But now the situation was difficult to back down. The publicity had already been hyped up on the internet, and the cast list had already been confirmed. It was impossible to retreat now. Otherwise, Qin Guang would only end up with the reputation of being a coward, and the situation would be worse than it was now. There was only one way to turn the tables, and that was if he could really bring out his acting skills at the speed of light under the guidance of Big Beard Deng and conquer everyone with his indisputable performance. But thinking of the encounter in Wujing Film and Television City that afternoon, the two of them really had no confidence in their hearts. Big Beard's most trusted assistant, Yang Shi, had almost collapsed because of him. The whole crew dragged on for 2 or 3 hours before they finally waited for his flash of inspiration to finish shooting a set of 30-second scenes. In the new film, he had become the male lead from a small role. The scenes were shot throughout the whole scene, and there were a lot of dialogue lines. When they thought about how to train Qin Guang under that workload, the two women felt despair for Big Beard Deng and Yang Shi. Want to give a perfect performance? Difficult as climbing to the sky. It seemed that this time they really played too big. Why did I become the male lead? The pressure is so great. Qin Guang's eyes were dull as he muttered to himself. His voice was getting lower and lower, and he gradually seemed to fall asleep. The two women stared at each other, not knowing how to enlighten him. About a few minutes later, Chen Guang, who was still curled up, snored like thunder as if he was asleep. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.